All right.
Do we need to move that closer this way?
Yes. Thank you.
All right, we'll call the CRA meeting to order. First thing we'll do is approval of the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Motion, a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. One thing we do have to do is that we
Attendance.
we'll go to attendance in a second. Well, we can go to attendance now. Go ahead, Brian.
Brian Volk.
Mike
Here.
Yeba.
Paul Osborne.
Charles Davis, also at the table, Sonia Fonsing, did I get it right? Fonseca, and Jennifer Cockcroft. All right, one thing we have to do as well is, with Sheena not being with the CRA anymore, she was our secretary, we need to make a motion to have Sonia become the secretary for the CRA. So, you guys want to do that? A little bit of housekeeping?
I move to have Sonia Fonseca
Fonseca?
act as acting secretary.
Just as secretary, not
As
acting.
secretary for the CRA.
I have a motion, have a
Second.
second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right,
Do we have to approve his absence?
that's next on.
Oh.
You want to run this?
I thought we were going to do that with attendance.
Steve Chesner obviously is not here today. He was able to make the last meeting, was not able to make this meeting. So I just need somebody to either make a motion excusing or unexcusing it. So you guys,
Well, he did let us know in advance he was
Well
not
in
going
advance.
to be here, so.
we changed the meeting. He didn't change. We changed our meeting.
Right. But, I mean, it is what it is. So I'll make a motion to excuse his absence is acceptable.
I have a motion. Have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. I hate doing those ones. I don't like that, but it's something we got to do. Now, the meeting did get obviously pushed back for a week. There was obviously with Sonia coming on board and learning the new thing, something slipped through the cracks, and that's getting resolved, so we won't have that problem again. Steve had made a comment on it. I saw an email on it, but Steve made a comment on it. It just happened. It slipped through the cracks with the transition, and most of that's being handled now. So with that, we'll move on to the next thing. Treasurer's report. Do we not have anybody today?
Looks like it.
No, she wasn't able to attend, but I do want to say that as part of the presentation, I do have the financials summarized for you. She did provide a copy of the financial information, and so we can talk about that a little bit later. She
Okay.
wasn't able to make the meeting.
All right. So I guess we're going into grants and subsidies. First one, Sonia's prime
Yes, I'm
premier.
very surprised that the applicant's not here because he indicated he would be here to provide you with some additional information.
Let's push it back a little bit and get through some other stuff and give him a minute. Maybe he's running late. There is a big storm.
Accept the treasurer's report then, or?
We never do. We don't have to. They've told us we didn't have to, and if that's changed, let us know. But we've never had to vote on it. And she's going to go over it with us.
Yeah, we'll talk about the financials.
Do that later.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So we'll move to the next item versus the festival.
The 113 Palmetto facade grant is
Can we back up a minute?
sure.
On the minutes, I just saw that. Did we approve that 365 for the fishing tournament?
No,
I thought we did.
we did
What
not.
was the one that we
You and I
approved?
lost it. You and I were the only one
Oh,
opposed.
that's right. You're right. I'm sorry.
There's a misprint.
Where you at?
At the very end of 5.
June minutes. Approve the event. The number 5.
At the very end it says motion failed.
Next one over. Next page.
Oh, okay.
Motion
I just
fails.
saw where it
Yep.
said approve. Wait a minute.
Mike and
Okay.
I were the loan
All right,
people there
sorry
on that
about
one. No problem. You good?
Yep.
All right. 113 Palmetto facade grant. I guess Christine's not coming down to do that. I guess I can do some history on it. I guess that's what we'll do. Basically, I was talking with Tom George about 113 Palmetto. As you guys know, that's the old jail. There are two applicants that are actually put in a request for the building, and each of them has two completely different things to do with it. With that being said, one of the problems that they were having was the front facade, and behind it is stucco. and they wanted, they had a company come out and pull some stucco off of there to take a look to see if it could be brought back up to its grand luster, I guess is the best way to put it. It's required to keep the same facade as it was when it was first built, unless it cannot be done, and then it has to be changed, I guess, and Christine can get more into that than I can. With that being said, I told them, I said, listen, I said, here's the thing. The CRA has always had this building, and we have always tried to maintain it in the best we can, and also to get it safe and get it to where somebody can actually do something with it. With the front facade being an unknown, I told Tom, let's explore the idea of the CRA going ahead and taking care of the front facade and doing it so that when the new applicant that does get the building comes in, they're not walking into it with an unknown of, okay, now I have to come off another 60, 70, 30, whatever the number is, to fix this. And we're giving them a building that is semi, where you get inside it's way different, but the front is looking the way it should look to meet Schedule K or S?
Yes.
Schedule S. So with that being said, Christine went ahead and had a company come in and give us a proposal to take the stucco off. And as you guys can see, there's not a lot of companies that do that. So doing three proposals was not something that was very easy to do. But she did get one person that came out and gave us a quote, and I'm assuming it's in here. Yeah, it's right here. The total to do that is about $32,000. And personally, I think it's something that is on our behalf, something that is a good investment to make into the building, so that the building looks like we want it to look, and also gives somebody that they're not coming and taking a facade grant from us to fix the front of the building, as opposed to put a business in the building. So, two things on this one. We can open up for discussion. Mike Eva, you're going to have to recuse yourself from this discussion, any kind of voting,
Totally
because you
agree.
are one of the people that has put together a proposal for the building. But I open it up to the floor for discussion.
Do I,
How much,
For recusing, I do not know if there is.
There is a form. There is a form. You got to get it from the clerk.
I've signed one before,
Yep.
back years ago in
Okay.
HPP, but
We'll get it
Does
from
it have to be done in advance?
you
No.
do it afterwards.
Okay.
You can do it after.
So
should
will
I
get
state
that.
for the record that I'm recusing myself?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Mike Evan. I'm going to recuse myself regarding the issue for 113 Palmetto Avenue.
All right. So really, I just open it up for discussion.
how
Anybody-
much of the stucco did they take off?
They only took off one section to kind of see what the brick looked like underneath.
Because he just did that on Sanford Avenue,
Yes, you'll
Three
have
of
to
us.
identify.
and there was brick missing, brick this size,
Mm-hmm.
and he's putting stucco back up.
Who?
Mhm.
I don't believe he's in the.
No, he's not, but he was gonna remove the stucco to leave the brick, but it looked so bad, he's putting stucco back on.
But in our case, it's a little different. We follow that, not ours. In this building's case, it's going to fall under different rules.
So
And
this 32 could turn into 100 if they gotta put new bricks over it, right?
it wouldn't be. Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted some additional information that was brought to my attention after this was issued, is that they do believe that the brick is in good condition. So they've removed it in various sections
Yep.
to double check it.
Oh.
They do have some areas where they will need to do a process by which they
Mortar.
regrout it. if you will.
Regrout it for the most part.
But the belief is that the brick is in very good condition. The other thing I wanted to mention too is that the bidders have voiced a concern about the insurance requirements, because through our procurement policies, there is a requirement for insurance to be carried no matter what. There's a small project and a large project requirement. So what you may want to consider, the $32,000 is approximate right now, but you may want to consider adding a little bit for the project-specific policy, because these folks don't typically carry that level of insurance.
Jimbo's Creative Masonry does not have insurance.
Not this type of insurance. They're,
What are we requiring? What are we requiring
we
them to carry?
can't, like $1 million.
That's
general
pretty
liability.
standard, though.
But these folks don't carry it, because they're usually self-performing these projects, so they don't have workers' compensation or this level of general liability. So we can either increase the amount just a little bit to give you the flexibility to hire the best contractor. Or we can just, probably hire a general contractor that has the type of insurance that's required, but the city can't waive it.
Yeah, but they've done work in the city before, from my understanding.
I'm
And
not familiar with
$1
the
million
ordinance.
is pretty standard in the industry.
But in the city is one thing, owned by the city is another. The city-owned part of it is the obstacle in this case because they have to follow our procurement policies. If the building was already owned by a subsequent person and we were just funding the project for them, it wouldn't be a problem. But because the city owns it while the work is being done,
We have to
procurement
meet
can't
different
waive it.
criteria.
Yeah.
Do you know what that criteria is?
Well, I know it's $1 million general liability policy, and I think that's the struggle right now.
I can't
And the
imagine
workman's
them not having
compensation. We don't accept a waiver. So even if they don't have to have workers' comp, we require it.
I'm pretty familiar with that portion of it. The $1 million is, I'd be very surprised they don't have $1 million liability policy and be in a business. But anyway, I do understand the waiver, the workers' comp waiver. So if the city doesn't accept it,
Right.
so but you're talking about a performance bond or performance?
No,
What did you just say?
They didn't require, there's no bonding criteria.
Well, you were
of-
mentioning something so that they get around the insurance. I mean, because really, there's no way getting around it. They either take it out or they
No,
don't.
I was told that they don't waive it in any way.
Yeah.
So unless we wait until the building gets transferred to somebody else, what my recommendation is that you consider knowing what you do about insurance, increasing it a little bit just in case they need a project-specific policy.
But they can't do it. There's not a project-specific policy. It's either you take it out or you don't. So I mean, quite honestly, for what they're doing, you're talking less than $1,000 depending on 2 employees. But all right, is Christine Dalton not here? I thought she was coming down
I
for
thought
this.
she was too. I'm not certain if she's in her office.
So what-
But the person who knows more about the insurance issue is Tom George.
And I know he's not going to be here because they're doing budget. He called me and let me know
So,
that
but
today.
we don't have to address it. I mean, we can just deal with the request from the city
Mhm.
and let that other issue come up when it comes up, because the person they hire may not have that obstacle.
Well, realistically,
So this is gonna be done before someone gets the bid?
correct.
Yes.
And the thought process behind that, Brian, is that if we get that done, that is money they do not have to take out of the
No, I
rehabilitation
understand
grant or anything like that to get to that point. The CRA's already invested close to about $60,000 in that building with,
If they're wanting to get the deal done, couldn't we authorize up to $35,000? And whatever $35,000 would get that done, and one of the 2 bidders can say yes or no. And then, that would proceed.
I think the idea more behind it is to
Because it
get
could
it.
take 3 months to have that done. So-
I've read the proposals and everything, and I have to be honest with you, I think we're 6 to 8 months out, if not 10 months before, by the time it gets through where it needs to get through, gets to commission, gets through 2 readings, gets a proposal, and gets everything done. I don't think this happens this year anyway. That was the other part of it that kind of pushed me in that direction, because now what you do is you get that done, and you now have it helps the facade looking at Palmetto to begin with, because now the building's
Yeah.
up to speed, and I think it just makes it a little more attractive for somebody to actually put a business in there. Whoever does it is spending well in excess of $400,000 to $600,000 to bring it up to speed anyway. And I will tell you, I mean, both plans look very nice. No?
Just left the building.
Okay. Well, guess we see where we rank on the important level there, huh? I mean, all right. Well, regardless of the point, I still think it's a good thing. I think we could at least, in theory, vote on doing it, set an amount. I don't know that 35. I think we ought to probably set more like 40, and give them a little room for some things, and go from there. We're gonna have to.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a question.
Go ahead.
With regard to the type of the facade grants are typically a $10,000 grant. In this case, you don't have a program called government aid, but that's really what this is. The city has come to you and asked you for assistance to rehab this building. So this would really not qualify as a facade grant, which is, I think, what you typically would
I don't look.
evaluate.
I don't look at it as being a facade grant. I guess I kind of look at it the same as if with a
Like a
streetscape, and
self-performing-
this just. I don't think this falls under a grant because it's not really applying for a grant. We're just taking care of a city property. It would be no different in my mind than a streetscape or anything like that.
All right, so this is a capital improvement
It's a
project.
capital improvement
Okay.
project. Does that sound good?
We just wanted to make that clear because it references facade
Yes.
grant throughout and.
It does say facade because that's what they're working on is the
Okay.
facade, but it didn't. In my mind, it was never supposed to be a facade grant.
Okay, so I just want to go on the record to say that if you actually make a motion to approve it, you might want to make a part of your motion the fact that it is a capital improvement project versus a facade grant.
Anybody got any questions on it? Any concerns? Brian?
No, it's pretty simple. I don't think 40 will cut it, but
I don't either.
they're gonna be asking for more once they get in the middle of it, but I could be wrong.
I know they took one square out and then they
Yeah,
went
I saw
back and
that.
did some more.
Two or-
And they were getting a feel for it. I think, honestly, I think at some point once the facade is done, I think there's going to be a few questions about some windows and
Finish
doors.
work and-
Because the windows that are in there are going to have to be rehabbed because that's part of what is required, and they're still there. So they're still there, so they're going to have to rehab them. I've been inside of it and looked on the outside, and all it is lattice. I mean, you can reach in there and just push it, and it'll flex. It's not much attached there. It really isn't. I'm not sure what they're going to find up there, but so I don't disagree. But that's all that's being asked for now. I would
Do you
say.
have another question then,
Yes, ma'am.
please? Because your policies limit the amount of money that you can invest in a particular property over a period of time. In this case, because it's a capital improvement project, is that limitation not applicable? You can invest as much as you
Mhm.
like over as much time as you like.
On the city owns,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
That's what we've always done.
Okay.
That building, we've already put $60,000 in that building as a
Yeah.
CRA to shore up the roof.
Okay, I just
And
wanted
do
to
all
make
that.
sure that I didn't have a
Mhm.
limitation.
That's one of the reasons why I did not want to touch into a facade grant or a
Gotcha.
rehabilitation grant because that takes away from the new owner being
Okay.
able to apply
Okay.
because it's by the address.
Gotcha.
So that was my thought process on it. It was to help them out on it. All right. Well, I'll leave it to the board for action.
I'll make a motion to approve a capital improvement up to $40,000 at 113 Palmetto Avenue for removing the stucco over the brick.
And all right, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Pretty much you, Paul.
Well, realizing that. It looks like a Alamo defeat there. Oh, I second the motion. All right.
All right, I have a motion. I have a second. Do I have any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Sorry, my wife.
All right. I just saw. How you doing, sir?
Yes, he probably could have voted because this right now won't directly affect him or not.
I didn't
Yeah,
want
but it-
that. I didn't
6
want that
or
at
8
all.
months, it might.
No.
I agree with you.
I asked.
Yeah.
I got an opinion on that before we got down the road on that because what it could show later on down the road is that you
Yeah.
were setting yourself up, and
Right.
so
Yeah, I
no.
don't want to.
It's easier to err on side of caution than it is to move forward. All right, now we've got the Premier Festival. You want to give us a little bit of an update before?
Absolutely. Okay, we have the first Puerto Rican festival in Sanford. Mr. Rodriguez is the applicant, and he's representing the Association of Puerto Ricans Living in Florida, and he's requesting an event grant to assist with city costs associated with his festival. It'll be held on July 23rd, 2016, from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Fort Mellon Park. And he has obtained the City Commission's approval and all the associated permitting. He has billboards and a number of acts lined up, and he is here to share a little bit more information. The event will be costing about $20,000, and he is seeking $5,169.65. With that, Mr. Rodriguez, would you approach and answer some questions about your event?
Yes, my name is Sanford Rodriguez. I'm the CEO for Puerto Rican Living in Florida Association, 501c3 organization. I live in Florida for the last 10 years. I work in here in Florida also for 10 years. That event is good because we have right now about 7 bands, live bands coming to the events. I got people for everywhere, from Puerto Rico, Miami, different parts of the Florida to come to events. I got sponsorship on that way too. I got people from Puerto Rico beer, Gasolina beer. I got the people from Bravo Supermarket, Spring. All the people is from Sanford. I got people from Spring, Cricket, Value Fund, people from Homie Howies. I got the information for that one. I got people for Electromania. It's another place here on Sanford to work with me on that event. I got the people for the hospital on Sanford. They put about 6 tents to give it to the customer, to the people, free, how do you say that one? Free promotion to the people. I got 2 lawyers on my place too. I got the Dr. Ortiz. He's a doctor here in Sanford too. I got about maybe 15 sponsors for people to like to put tents on that place, and all the people is only for Sanford. But we have more people, about 65 tents. That one is vendor for different parts from Puerto Rico. For the other day, I got people from Kissimmee, and that event is it's a huge event. It's 11 to 8, free for everybody. Okay, we don't take any money about the, people don't need to pay anything to come to the event. I put security, my personal security is a company with all the license. I show to the city all the license on that one too. Also, we have the police from Sanford too.
Mm-hmm.
I got approval from Puerto Rico because I got the people from the government of Puerto Rico. Okay, if you need the letter from Puerto Rico, I got the approval for the federal Puerto Rican office. That was in Puerto Rico too. I got Telemundo Orlando is going with me. My Sanford, Florida, the magazine, Orlando, Florida, and also Rumba. All the people is waiting only for you give me the opportunity to do that one, a big, huge event on Sanford. Why? Because that event is a big one, and that event is for everybody. I got music also Spanish and English too. Because that one is for everybody on Sanford.
Apparently, from my understanding, is some of the groups you have are pretty good in the Spanish or Latino culture. So I hear you bringing some pretty good groups in.
How many people do you anticipate?
Minimum on that one, because I do some search on Telemundo, Facebook, and other ones. Minimum people on that one is 3,000 people. Max on that one, I think we have around 4,000, 5,000 people on that way.
Just as a background, Mr. Rodriguez also worked with the Sanford Police Department
Yes, sir.
2 years ago,
Yes, sir.
and
Yes,
I helped a little bit on it too when they
to
did
help me
their.
too much on that one.
their-
To
yeah.
help me too much.
And
on
we
that.
really did not nowhere near promote like we did, like you're doing on this one, and we ended up with close to 1,500 to 2,000 people there for that. So he did assist the Sanford Police Department on putting together their Latin Fest is what they called it,
Yes,
right?
sir. The
Latin
first one
Fest.
I do with the city, the name is Latin Festival,
Mm-hmm.
and I promised to the city, if they give me the opportunity, I do the second one, a Puerto Rican, and the next one I do for another, I don't have any problem with that one. The police saved me the last time, if I do that one, I like to do on Sanford, put Sanford on the map. I don't know how, if I say that one exactly, but that's Spanish, no? I like to put Sanford on the map. I need to know, everybody know what happened in Sanford. Okay, why? Because we have now 20% of the population on Seminole County is Latino, and that's good. That events, I got people from Milestone, I work in a company, and they put tents to recruit people on that way too. I got people from Bravo, they recruit people on that way too. I got another company I got 3 companies to put tents on that one, to fill out information, take information for the people. On that way, I give it jobs to the people on top. Because that company likes to recruit people on the events.
Okay.
And I got Telemundo Orlando. It's coming 2 people from Telemundo Orlando. Sergio Gonzalez is the answer on that one, and the lady is Olga Aymax. She comes to the events to present that one. And I got a big artist from Puerto Rico, Julio Cesar Sanabria. He's a big, huge artist from Puerto Rico. This time I have the same, you remember the last band we presented with a huge band? This band is coming again to the events too.
Good. All right. Does anybody got any questions?
They meet the criteria that we have.
Paul, anything?
No.
Brian? All right, leave the board for action.
I'm looking for the suggested motion.
It's in there. Find it.
Yeah. I move to approve the special event permit, alcohol permit, noise permit, and street closure for the Premier Festival, Puerto Ricanos in Sanford.
And
Event.
you're on the city commission, honestly.
Yeah, no, go back. Back up a little bit. Keep going back. Keep going. Quite a few pages back. Past the pictures. You'll get to our agenda. Still back.
All right.
It's right after this page right here.
Okay. Do I need to,
I think we stopped you on that one.
all right. I move to
I was getting ready to. I was trying to. I'd put my glasses on to see
I
what.
think we
It,
have those powers.
I move to approve the event grant for the first Puerto Rican Festival in Sanford 2016 for the city costs not to exceed $5,169.65, provided all program grant agreement criteria are met and funds are made available by the board.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Good luck, sir.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you for
Enjoy.
inviting to do that one. I have a pleasure to do this one. Thank you, Mr. Charles, again. For
Yes,
that
sir.
One. And I promise to you, that's not the first one.
Mm-hmm.
We do more festivals on
You
Sanford.
gonna teach everybody how to dance salsa or what?
Yes. And if you anybody needs some special music, tell me and I put the music for you, for everybody. Thank
Funny
you,
thing is
thank you,
when,
thank you.
when we did the last one, I stood there and I don't speak Spanish at all. And the song I'd be liking the beat, and I'd have to turn to somebody, either him or San Juanita, and I would say, well, "What are they singing about?"
Yeah, but this time you
And then
got,
she would explain to me what they were, and I'd be like, "Oh, it makes sense now."
this time you got better music, more music on that one, English music too. I got plena with the tambores that one. I got people with big tambores on that one. But I
Oh,
promise
great.
you, I give it a huge event. Thank you for everything.
Thank you, sir. Have a nice day.
Good
You're
luck.
welcome.
All right. There was nobody in finance that could come down in place of Cynthia. I mean, I know that we're not by ourselves here, are we? But anyway, I believe we need to move some money. The reason I'm asking
You
is,
have 20,000 remaining in your event grants.
I thought we already.
No, you didn't expend it all. I've already checked with Cynthia.
Yeah,
So she gave me the financial reports, and they're summarized in the work session information. You have 20,000 remaining, so you're okay.
I
I have
only
a
reason
copy of her report right here.
the only reason I'm saying that is because we had to move money for the last one we approved for 2,000. I think Brian made a motion to move 3,000 over there, in there. So that's why I'm questioning it. I'm not. Okay.
At this point, the only thing I can rely on is her report. She gave me the report, and it said basically that you had 20,000 remaining that's unencumbered and unspent in your promotion and event money. Then you also have just over 300,000 for Oak to Myrtle. You have just over 12,000 remaining in your loan subsidy. And the balance of, I think it's something like 23,000 is in there for your, well, you've got 53 for the design of the Civic
Event center.
Center.
Yes.
And then about 23,000 for your admin.
Okay.
So at this point,
We'll have to go on that, but I don't think
Yeah.
that's right.
if it's not right,
We'll have to fix it in
We'll have to
August.
fix it.
But he's gonna, well, we're paying downstairs, so it all stays in-house. Okay. All right, well, moving on. Post-event rehab, 120 South Park Avenue. Did I see Mr. Hawkins over there? No? Is that not him?
nope.
Oh, okay.
So, okay. This particular party, when I called them, these are the folks that received both a facade grant and a loan subsidy grant. When I called them, they said they would send a representative to give you their report, but I'm very sorry they're not here, so we'll have to.
All right, Sanford After Dark, is that what you guys are here for? Hey, we do have somebody here. Thank goodness.
Pretty light day today.
Come on up. Sure, sit. Make yourself comfortable. We have a lot of vacant chairs today. Nobody showed up.
Chairs. So, we're here to ask the board to extend our grant request, or if we need to submit the grant request. Mo, as everyone knows Mo, she had knee replacement surgery, so she's not able to be here. Now, she did file a post.
Let me step in for 1 second. Right now, we are not looking at a new application or extension. Right now, what you're doing is reporting on the funds that you were already granted.
Okay.
So this is your post-event reporting period. The other thing I wanted to bring to your attention is that my understanding is the post-event reporting that was submitted is already in your packet. This is what I was given from Sheena. And what I am told is that is insufficient to document the 300 attendees. So when we spoke, you were going to go back and check your receipts to see if there was a reporting that you could assemble that would indicate to the board that you had 300 or more participants at the event.
Well, what I can show is our internal numbers right here. For each of the days that we had the event, just our establishment alone, Watts Hops, tickets alone for the first one was 140. So there's typically 2 people per ticket. So even disregarding that, that's just for our one establishment, there's 140 valid, guaranteed people were there. Okay?
Right.
Previously, also, the people were asking, does this actually bring more people to the street? Are we bringing more people down into Sanford Avenue? And yes, the Saturday before, we only had 84 tickets. The week before that, we only had 81 tickets. Then the second one in March when we had it, we had 66 tickets for that event, but that's the one that got rained out where everybody left. We still increased our sales by about $400 for that day. In March, no, I'm sorry, that's right. In April, we were running around 60 tickets for a Saturday, and we had 91 tickets on that day. So it's definitely, whoever came and reported was underreporting, I believe.
Nobody's come and reported it.
Well, the numbers that, from what I understood, someone from city was there looking around. They were saying there weren't that many people.
No, I went to 2 of them. I went to
Okay.
2 of them, and a few of us were there.
Okay.
And you know, I mean, what got us to this point, you guys chime in as you feel the need to, if I miss anything, but what happened was she came in with this plan of putting together an event. One of the big criteria for us was that we wanted to see buy-in from everybody.
Right.
We wanted all the businesses to buy in. At the time, it was going to go from, I think, 6th down to 2nd and tie
Right.
everything in. And then it then backed down to closer and kept tightening up, and now it's pretty much sounds to me like the last of it was just between her place and Wops Hops, sounded like. we told her that we were going to fund, I think, 3 of them, wasn't it? 3 or 4 of them, something like that. And at that point, we would want a detailed, because it really, we're trying to get away from starting new events that we can't grasp our hand around how many people are coming. The board agreed to make an exception to that, and they said, okay, we're going to fund this amount of them. At the end of this time, we want you to come to us with a full report. We want pictures. We want everything on there. She's missed 2 of those meetings,
Okay.
and it's always something, and it's okay. It happens. Life is life in general. Then when at the last one, she called me and said that, this is what was going on, and she's trying her best. And then we were very clear on what we were looking for. We needed something to document, and where I like your numbers there, but that's not something we can wrap our hands around and take a look at. We were very specific on it. We wanted pictures. We wanted pictures of all the vendors. We wanted pictures of the people there. We wanted everything we could to document it so that when she came to us for our post report, we could look at it and say, this is an event that the CRA is getting the bang for their buck and is something we need to be behind.
Okay.
So
I'm confused because I sent a bunch of pictures. I sent. That's not been included
To who?
in that report.
I do have the photographs, and the photographs were given to me that day that we spoke. The consensus with the staff that provided the photographs was that they didn't see any evidence of 300 people or more. Now, if you can provide more than just your reporting, because there's more than one business involved here,
Mhm.
correct? So, that's the problem. You have to demonstrate that you had 300 or more.
So, totally understand that, and we will. Sanford Brewing Company is here as well. They'll be opening in the next few months. And the
Be
reason,
nice next month.
So the reason why we drew it in was because we were too spread out. Some businesses had their own street closings that they have and didn't want to participate in ours. So you had that big gap between 4th and 2nd that is kind of a dead zone. So if we had put vendors down the street, it would have been spread out too far. In order to make it feel like to raise the energy of the event, we slowly closed it in. And we did have some weather against us. We did have,
yeah, you did have that one.
one of them was 28 degrees out that we couldn't do it that night, and then the storm came through another night, and then now we have heat, which is hard to deal with. So we need to get with some of the other businesses and then provide some better numbers if they're able to. I don't know. I asked Mo to send me over her numbers prior to her surgery, and I never got anything. So sounds to me like we probably should resubmit.
Resubmit. And just as an FYI for you, is that when Mo called me, she said the reason that she was tightening it up was because she had a lack of vendors, is what she told me. So that was the conversation she had with me, and she said she did mention it was spread out, but she said a lot of the people that were showing up because she was letting them come for free, for the most part, were not vendors that she wanted, and she was not getting the quality vendors that she was looking for to promote. So that's what was said to me. She didn't say it to the board. She said it when she called to me because she wanted to try to get back on in the agenda after she had missed the date. So it didn't happen, obviously. So realistically, at the end, you got to document it. We are changing the criteria, and actually leading into the second half of this meeting, we are going to take a look at all of the event grant, and we are going to be setting the criteria for moving forward. So make sure you check back prior to for any changes that might have happened, and Sonia can get those to you. But there might be some changes coming down. It'll be what the board wants to do, but it is a discussion that's coming up here shortly.
Okay.
And if I could ask you, please to state your name and your business for the record so that the minutes will reflect that you were here. please.
Sure. My name's Peter Manelli. I'm one of the co-owners of the Wops Hops Brewing Company down on Sanford and 5th Street.
Greg Pecora, co-owner of Wops Hops Brewing Company.
Chris Esser, one of the managing partners of Sanford Brewing Company.
And the other question I had, as far as the proof and everything, there was a website made or a Facebook page that was Sanford Market. And I know the first one we had, I was running up and down the street personally asking everybody to check in and put photos and stuff in there. I don't know if you guys went and taken a look at that.
I don't mean this abruptly, but it's
No,
not
it's-
our job to go out. It's your job. It's their job to tell us what to go look for and bring it
Okay.
to us to look. I don't, other than the fact that I did make 2 of them, it was not your rain out because I was going to your rain out and I said, well, there's not going to be anybody there. But I
Right.
did make 2 of them and just going through. So we have, I got to be honest, you're the first ones to come since we gave the grant to give us anything.
Wow.
So really, everything you're sharing with us is the first we've heard of it. That's why
Okay.
we passed on it the last one and said, we're not funding this anymore, and we moved on. We have not gotten anything on it, and we haven't. This is the first one.
All right, well.
Okay.
And we've had a couple there's been a lot of phone calls.
We will definitely make
Yeah.
a conscientious effort to document this a lot better and not rely on anyone else to bring information to you.
And it has to be to the board as a whole. Calling me is not talking to the board.
No.
And I tried to explain that as well. I mean, I can't call them and talk to them. So it has to be a presentation to all of us. And that's what I tried to explain to Maura. Yeah, you're making a good case for an argument, but I'm only one person. So you need to bring it to us. And that hasn't happened yet. So put all that together. And like I said, but definitely reach back out to Sonia after this meeting and make sure that the criteria hasn't changed any and see where we're going to go on that. But other than that, I think the best thing would be to resubmit and go from there.
Okay.
All right?
All right, guys.
Appreciate
Did you
Thank
see
you.
the My Sanford magazine?
See my.
You're in it? I sure did. Saw that yesterday, I think. I was like, oh, that's good advertising for you.
On a side note, you're getting close.
We're getting
I've been
very
seeing some
close.
pictures. I've been seeing
Yeah,
some
things are-
pictures.
We've done a lot inside. This is, of course, the Sanford Brewing Company. We've done a lot of work inside, which was a lot of the utilities had to be done. Tore out the floor, put in the plumbing, new electric, new everything is going in that building. Now, finally, we're doing the facade, and people are starting to see things happening. So
Right.
we're building up a little bit of interest now. We got the windows went in last week, putting up some stucco this week. I think the big doors are arriving tomorrow.
Good for you.
We got a sign, our sign just got approved by the city this morning. So we're gonna have a nice big lit up sign going up, so exciting things are happening. We're hoping, I'm trying to be optimistic, saying we're opening in about a month. My builder is saying about a month and a half.
And Greg's saying 3 months.
Well, it's to our benefit that he opened. We
No, I don't disagree.
Yeah, we're.
I'm excited about it. It's been a long process.
Yes.
It's been a very long process.
But
It's been a long process.
we're very excited about opening in the next month or 3. And at that point, we're going to be far more interested in these street closures. That's why I'm here today. Is we're very interested in that because that's going to help us, and I think we're going to also generate a lot more interest downtown, being one more business, kind of linking 6th through 2nd. And the more business we bring in, the more people are going to come to events like this. So I think it's very important, and I'll work with these guys as I'll be more involved in this as we open, to make sure that we can get a good proposal and document all the numbers and the attendees a lot
Yep.
better.
That'll be great.
And we can do that. But I think it's going to be very important to promote the Sanford Avenue shops and that street over the next couple months, because it's simply going to just build over time. It's
great.
nothing that can happen in just 2 or 3 months of events. It's going to take a longer haul to get it done.
Don't disagree. Don't disagree. Look forward to you guys coming in and giving us a post on your facade grant and everything, and we will have a CRA sticker ready for your door.
All right, sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys. Have a nice day.
All right,
Have a good day,
thank you.
sir. All right. We've gotten through everything on here. Any discussion items? Because I'm really trying to push this through to get into the next section to get us out of here.
Yeah, not to. After we approved the $5,100, I looked at the city thing that he was looking at. The city approved $4,100 on the 16th of March, and the city estimate was March 2nd at $5,100.
I think that
So-
was the way I read it was that was their estimate at that point, but then they came in higher when they actually got
No,
it.
it's backwards though.
What are the dates?
It's,
Yeah, the letter is dated later.
Now keep in mind too, Brian, that we went up to an amount,
No,
the
I
big one
understand
on
that
this is
part.
police.
But we've
and
had this same issue on other,
Yeah,
where
I know.
the
But it's
figures
up
weren't.
to,
It's up to the amount.
Yeah.
And we only
Yeah.
pay the true amount, so when the post report comes in. All right. Any more discussion items?
You asked earlier about the absences, and I
Yes,
didn't
ma'am.
have a city code in here to look it up, but we were able to find out that it's 3 unexcused absences before we have
And doesn't matter excuse because
them. 3 unexcused.
okay, good. All right. Executive director's report, which by the way, Sonia is our new executive director. I don't think I properly introduced her. It seems like we've been.
Sorry, it has been quite a challenge to get this far, and I appreciate your patience and indulgence in this, what I'm sure is not a regular packet and a number of other things, because it's been a little bit difficult to get the resources squared away, but
I imagine.
well, I think it all looks great.
it'll get better.
She's had a little bit of a struggle. It seems like we're the redheaded stepchildren right now, and we've been booted out the door. So we just got to get back in good graces, I guess. And
So let me just make sure I get a clarification. So Sonia's going to handle everything from going forward.
yes, sir.
Okay. Sheena is doing other things.
She's back at her job.
Okay. I'm just trying to. Okay.
But are you stepping in also for Bob?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so you're taking on
The new
Sonia
Bob
and
and
Bob.
the new Sheena.
Yep. All wrapped in one
Bob
little
is
package.
outside of his-
Sheena. She's
Yes.
the new Bob and the new Sheena.
We still have
Wow.
Cynthia. Cynthia is still our treasurer. She is legally our treasurer.
There you go.
The executive director is now Sonia.
Okay.
And I don't know if you're aware of this, but you probably are. She is a 1792
Yes.
CRA
That I
executive
know
director as well.
aware of, yes.
She's getting her feet wet. It is a little bit different the way they do it at the county as opposed to the way they do it here. And there seems to be, once we brought her on, everybody just kind of bailed on her somewhat, and just figured she knew what to do, and she's just having a little bit of trouble getting everything, and we're working through that right now.
I'm just trying to understand what the players,
Yep.
you know, as the Army's going forward, I just,
We are the Army.
yes,
Jennifer, Sonia, us,
Yeah.
Steve. Yep.
So,
And it's a pretty good team.
yes.
I do agree.
I do have a brief report for you.
Yes, ma'am.
And what we've been able to do, and we're going to get into the numbers over here because the numbers were part of it. I was trying to put my arms around what was left this year for you guys to spend. But in addition to that, I was able to go through your last year's agenda and figure out what is still open versus what is not, okay? So you've got a handful of things that are still open that we will have to have reporting on, such as the rehab loan for 400, the Sanford Brewing Company, 400 South Sanford.
That was him.
Yes, then you
Now-
have both a facade grant and a loan subsidy for 300 East Second. You have the downtown Wi-Fi project.
300 each.
300 East Second, we just approved 2 meetings ago. There's a meeting that you were supposed to be here and you weren't.
Okay.
That is under construction right now. I saw it this morning. They were actually doing it. That's the corner across the street from the Sanford Herald on Palmetto where they're doing the tongue and groove. That was the big argument, I guess, the best way to remind you all of it, when we had the
That's-
disagreement between.
I'm trying to think, wait a minute.
No, wait a minute. That's 300 East Second. Never mind. Back up. 300 East Second is Robert Hawkins. Different one. My bad. 300 East Second is Robert Hawkins Fuel Barbecue. I thought that was him sitting in here, and we probably just need to reach out to him and let him know to come in because they are done. I don't know that they haven't been paid out yet.
No, in fact, they don't have an agreement. That's
There
that's
is an
what happened.
agreement though.
Is there?
There
Remember
has
we
to-
went-
there
yeah.
has to
Yeah,
be
we went
one.
through this.
No, we went through this one big time. Remember that was the
Yeah.
backdating and everything.
Okay, so then that's probably been resolved since the last time I heard anything about it.
I don't think it's been resolved. It probably hasn't been resolved because he hasn't come and asked for his money.
Okay.
And once he asks for his money is when we're going to start scrambling and everybody's trying to figure out. So why don't we get ahead of that horse and live a little?
Okay, we'll get all
proactive.
that.
I remember somewhat of our conversation
Mm-hmm.
because Rob came to me when we discussed this 2 meetings ago or so.
We
And
approved
he
it.
came back in, it was already approved.
Yep. We reapproved what we needed to approve.
Reapproved it again, it went back through the system for
Rob Hawkins.
Mm-hmm.
80-some thousand dollars or thereabouts, right? It was
What
already
hap-
approved.
What happened? What happened was that.
Yeah, I sent the agreement in March.
Yes. What originally happened was that Rob Hopkins had received money for the building on 2nd Street. the one with his offices in.
yeah.
I can't think.
Insurance
of,
risk services.
but I can't think of the address. But
Right.
what they did is that in accounting, they said no. We
Yeah.
approved him for this grant. They said no. He's already gotten this amount. The most he can get from it is this. Well, we've always been per address, not per person. So he had to come back before us for us to give him the balance of 53,000 to make it the 113. We approved that. At that point, Lonnie Groot was here at that time.
Yeah.
Lonnie Groot was supposed to get the application together, and I thought it was going to be done. So Jennifer may want to reach out to Lonnie.
I've been involved with this one since
Okay.
January. I'm looking through my emails. And I believe this might have been the one that the actual ordinance had to be changed because there was
A bank? No, he's self-funded on this
we
one, I'm
had-
pretty sure.
No, well, but subordinating it to the, hold on. I had to get a title opinion. There was a whole lot of things that had to happen. But back in March, I resent the agreement
Okay.
because
Can-
we had the title opinion and it was finished up.
Can we just look into it and find
Yes, I'll
out?
get with her, get the
Yep.
agreement, get it signed, and we'll get that squared away. There is nothing on file. When I asked Sheena, she said she didn't deal with the agreement. So she doesn't have a file on
Well,
that.
they had to deal with it because that's what involved with Lonnie. That's the whole thing that came about.
But if the contract was sent to Sheena and she didn't, maybe she thought I was gonna handle it or something back in,
You
I
understand
don't
what
know.
I'm saying?
I know. Let me back up here. I really didn't want to share this, but I mean I will share a little bit of it. Is that there's been a little bit of disconnect between Sheena and getting information over, and it seems to be not that it's something we need to be involved in because we don't deal with personnel, but there has been a little bit of a wall, I guess, to say that is being taken care of, and so when the CRA went over there, Sheena just quit for the most part with the CRA, and she's had a hard time finding where we're at and getting the information. That is changing now. There's a little bit of that going on, so that'll work itself through. And there's going to be a little bit of confusion. There's going to be a little bit of, Sheena did work on them at the time, and whether she's doing it now or not is beyond the point. And it's just getting through that transitional period for her to know.
So we just need to find out and make sure that all the different things for the different addresses that Rob Hawkins has been involved in, that he's up to speed as far as his compensation.
I believe, to answer your question, I believe the contracts and everything are ready. I think that it's just doing a follow-up on it because we've already approved it. We don't have to do anything on our end.
Probably just getting it signed.
It's just getting it signed and getting it done,
And recorded and then.
which I'm
being
surprised he
able to-
hasn't come yet for the money.
I'm wondering, is there a reason why he hasn't come? for the
He
money?
may not have closed it out.
He may not have gotten his final.
It may not be a
approvals
final or something, but yeah, he'll be here.
Final
I mean, there's no
on
doubt he's
So,
coming.
yeah, it's open.
yet. COs or.
So let's
Oh,
reach
no.
out to him.
It's open for business?
Yeah, they're
Well, it's
open.
been open for a couple of months.
Reach out to him and find out. They
Alright.
may have already paid him and we don't even know it.
Well, according to
Honest to
Sheena,
God.
we've not paid
It
it.
should show in the budget.
You would think.
No, she's saying it's open.
It's a fuel barbecue. The other thing.
It's
too
not under-
is-
it's under- No, I think
That
you're.
was prior to me.
Yes, that's what I was saying. Lonnie
Yeah, I
Grew
thought
handled
it
that
was.
one, so we
There's
need to
not
reach
that
out.
many things open. That property, the 302nd, we'll get that papered up and I'll follow up to make sure that everything's in place before we pay, if we haven't paid.
Well,
The only-
I specifically remember when all that occurred, he was gonna come in the following week and
Was that the guy
collect
that
on that.
showed up and wanted the check made out to the bank code?
No.
I don't remember that.
No, that's 115.
He did come back again after the discussion with the issues with Lonnie and the signing, and he came back again. He came to us again, and supposedly after that, he was supposed to get his disbursement.
I bet he's gotten his disbursement and it hasn't showed up because we'd be dragging behind a little bit. He only opened in
I would
June.
think we would have heard something at this point in time.
You think
but,
he'd
I
have
mean,
called?
We gotta check in.
Let's do this. Can you can look into it and just send an email out? We can't
I
answer the
will-
emails, but we can read them.
Yes.
Let's do that.
I will follow
Okay.
up and find out what's going on with that.
The Wi-Fi. I can give you an update on
You
that.
guys got an update on that, did you? via
I don't know.
email?
Did you guys get it? Because I asked for. Well, I got invited to. We got asked. I'm assuming you did.
Oh, city meeting.
To
I went
the
city
chamber.
meeting, yes.
To the
I
chamber.
was there for both on the 8 o'clock and the 3 o'clock.
Yep. And
Go ahead.
and when I said it, I said, well, wait a minute. I said, it'd be nice if you guys would update the entity that's paying for it, and instead
Right.
of us finding out through somebody else that we're having a meeting on it. He gave me an update, and basically, they haven't done anything, and I don't think we're going to spend the money this fiscal year. I believe it's going to carry into the next fiscal year. They are still doing the development process through Bright House of where to put everything. They have not gotten a price yet for the riverfront and the waterfront. that irritates me a tad bit because your negotiating powers in the beginning of the contract, not after the contract's done. But needless to
Was
say,
anything been signed though? Like, I haven't
we
seen
don't
No.
we don't know
No contract.
the contract.
We
But
approved up to.
19.9.
certain-
we're not signing the contract though. I did ask that question. The city is, and Bob Turk was at the time. So that I believe it's been signed. To be honest,
Well, I checked with Bob. And Bob said no.
no contract's been
No,
signed yet.
No contract.
Okay.
So we're still open and so
Well,
all of
I
these
think
things.
that's White House is doing. I don't think they're-
Bright House is holding it up. Do this. Go ahead and we have approved, to your point, up to a certain amount. We've approved that.
Right.
Reach out to Bob. Bob can put you in touch with, I can't think of the guy's
Jeff.
in IT.
Yes.
The IT guy.
Get with him and just get an update on it because realistically, the one thing I want to really push for is that if we haven't done an intergovernmental agreement or we haven't done anything, when Bright House is looking for their funds, if it happens the day after our meeting, we have to wait another 30
Right.
days. Does that push it back? Let's be a little proactive on this one as well and ask them if there's anything we need to do.
Okay.
We
And let
approved
me-
the funds.
Let me interject only because I was at the meeting at 8 and at 3 because the other responsibilities I've had. And they made a very good presentation. When I say they, IT person from the city was there, Bright House was with them. Okay? And they actually made a presentation, as the same presentation they made to all of us, the CRA, with all the locations and actually showing where the Wi-Fi was going to be on the buildings and the addresses and who owned them and everything. It was very well presented. The business people that were there had some concerns as to whether, based upon those locations, are they really maximizing the businesses' locations for the locations of the Wi-Fi? And I spoke up and said, look, we've got to get this implemented first. It's been approved to be done. We need to get it in place, and then we need to monitor it to find out if the locations that they're going to put it at are going to fulfill the needs of the business community. If we find that it's not, then maybe we need to change the locations. But we can't change locations until we get it up and running. And I think that appeased quite a few of the business people who initially at the meeting were unhappy because they didn't feel that the money was being spent to their benefit.
But it was never meant to be spent to their
Right,
benefit.
that
It was always
exactly
meant.
what I was gonna
It was
ask.
always
Right.
meant to
What is
be.
this meant for?
It's meant for the area outside.
Right.
Wi-Fi
Right.
for the city. We don't. The business was never part of our
We're
plan.
not supposed to be
Are they
funding
willing to
the
pay for
businesses.
Well, their thought process as it was presented, though, is that they're under the impression that with this Wi-Fi installations in the areas that they are, that it's going to benefit the public and the people that are coming to their businesses for internet.
Well, it should.
Yeah,
That's the
I think it's part
idea.
of the
Yeah,
goal, but
yeah.
It's
So-
not for
It's
them.
not for their
Right.
business. It's
Not for them individually, no. It's for the business
public.
public, yeah.
Yeah.
If their business happens to
Yes.
be within
No agreement.
the area that we want to cover for the public,
Right.
then great.
Okay, that's what I thought. All right, so that is one open item, which I will get with Mr. Turk and with Chris to give you an ongoing update of what's going on there with that agreement. The other one is 309 East First Street. That's a facade grant, which has not yet been paid.
That's the one I'm thinking of,
Is the
isn't
one
it?
way out there?
No, 309 East First Street. Is that not right over there at the corner of Palmetto and?
That's the only other grant
Is
that's
that-
open.
It'd have
What's
to
her
be
name?
east.
301 and 309, the two canopies.
Two canopies.
Right.
That's the one that we had. That was all
301
problem.
has been paid out.
It has been?
309 has not.
Okay.
So
They're
those
working.
are-
I drove by it on the way in this morning, and they were actually doing construction. They had it all opened up, so they're working on it now.
Okay,
So
so
I'm sure they're
those are
coming.
your 5 open activities, plus you have the shuttle agreement, you have CPH hired to do your civic center design, you have Color Burst, and there's an intergovernmental for project management services with from Public Works. So those are the things that you have open, okay? All of those things will be on my radar from this point forward to get you updates.
Okay.
With that said, the only other question and again, I'm waiting for access to what is called Laserfish. That's where you get all of your historical records since the inception of the CRA. IT is working on trying to get me access to that, because if they get me access to that, we do not have to pay the clerk the amount of money that they're asking for all those historical records. they want $1,000 to pull all our records from the inception. But we have to have them because you are going to be subjected to an audit before too long. And you most definitely will be audited when the CRA sunsets. So we have to at least try to.
And you can print them
I
off
can.
a
Yes,
Laserfish?
if I get the access, I can do it myself.
Okay. And
The other thing too is right now I can't answer the florist as to whether or not they have had a grant before because I don't have access yet.
the color burst,
No, there's a florist on,
Sanford Florist.
Sanford
Sanford
Flowers, Sanford Flower Shop.
yes, they want a facade improvement grant,
They haven't had one yet.
but according to her, she has.
Well, I will tell you that I don't remember her getting
More
one.
than 10 years ago?
Yeah, it's more than 10 years ago, and quite honestly, that was the question that we got answered early on, is that in the original CRA, under our
Right.
paperwork, is you could only come to the CRA once every 10 years.
Right.
And then what I wanted answered was somebody that came to us in the 15th year, now what happens when we sunset in the 20th and our extension went, and they said that they could start from scratch at that point. I
Okay.
never got it in writing, but I asked the question at that time to Mr. Groot, and so we may want to follow up on it. I am almost 90% positive that she did
Yes.
not come and get a grant during my time, and
Okay.
it'd have to go back to the early on days.
All right. Just to make sure that I cross that T and dot that I,
Mhm.
I'm gonna have Laserfish before next week.
Okay.
And I will check it just to make sure her address is not in the historical records. That way we can argue that she's never gotten it.
I did talk to Mr. George about making sure you got that
Yeah, he's working on
streamlined.
that with me. The IT folks came to see me today. I was given some training today on how to update the website. So going forward, I should be able to post the agendas and things on my own.
Great.
But that's it for my report.
Okay. Has anybody got anything on our meeting? And we're going to adjourn this and move right into our work session. Brian?
Nope.
Mike?
I'm good.
Paul? All right. So we'll adjourn the CRA meeting, and I will open up the work session meeting
Take a brief restroom break.
after we take a brief restroom break.
Thank you.
What's happening? Who's that? Who is this? Oh, is that his plan?
ALF.
Yeah, I knew that. I've been dealing on that for a month and a
I
half.
know you have.
Is this the plan you finally submitted?
Yes, Monday at the,
You know the problem. Can I pause this? Should I pause? Let's stop, but I just want to pause. On the list race.
down the side.
Hold. Still recording.
Yeah, that light on this side's still on.
Oh well. Hang on. I guess we can stop it and start it. No, because they need to have one. Alright. I'll talk to you. You know, back in the good old days, we got water.
Oh, well, sorry.
I'm teasing.
Yeah, you want some?
No, I don't.
Don't want any water?
Yeah, I'll have one.
Please.
Well,
Yeah, if you get them, I'll grab them. I'll take them. Thank you.
I'll take one.
I'll get them.
I've already seen all this.
You guys didn't say anything appropriate, did you?
You can let us know if we did, let us know.
Finally got back there, Sean went, my phone's still at the
We got
meeting.
one here too. Is that it?
No, that's not mine.
Okay, I'm coming.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I think so. If not, I'll get mine up.
Oh, she's got something to drink.
Yeah, we got an extra one, or that's,
Okay.
no, Steve's not here.
Looks like we still got a lot of ground to cover.
On the ground.
All the hard work going in here, just wanted to say how much it was appreciated. Paul?
Good to see you, my friend. How have you been, all right?
Very good. I saw you just a second.
Yeah.
Shake your hand. Always
Good to see
I know you're always busy.
Well, you all the.
Sometimes when
I see the
there's-
steam coming up and you need to walk.
Okay, I'm gonna go as fast as I can. Oh my goodness. It's been quite a,
So how many hours you putting in?
well, I haven't billed anything. This past week was the first time because officially the board approved it on the 27th. So I started billing, for this past week was the first week I put in the 20 hours to do, well, a lot of the time was spent doing the work session and the stuff for the meeting.
So you're still, you work in the county
Yeah,
full-time?
yeah.
All right. Are we good?
But yeah, it was interesting the way that worked out. But yeah, we've had a little bit of a fire drill over there of late too. We had an emergency TAC meeting today. Tomorrow we have an RPA meeting. So what I've been trying to do, even though initially I was just going to spend 2 days a week here, what's ended up happening is I actually go into my calendar and put when I'm here and when I'm there. And it just so happened that this past week was the first time there was 20 hours. But before that, I didn't bill anything, and I still haven't billed anything because I don't think anybody really knows how to handle the billing. So we don't know yet.
We'll figure it out. You want a water?
No,
You
I'm
can have
gonna
mine.
stick with, I'm gonna stick with Coca-Cola.
All right. We'll go ahead and call the
Don't tell the Pepsi man.
CRA work session to order. Sonia, this is your deal.
Yes.
Have at it.
Thank you, gentlemen. This is so exciting. Okay, so the very first thing I wanted to bring to your attention is what my objective is. I just wanted to give you a little bit of a snapshot of where you are. And then I want to get your direction on what we're going to do with your programs and policies and what your priorities are going forward. So as we discussed, I did get with the treasurer, and these are the numbers. We've collected about 17 million, of which you've spent about 16 and a half already. And by spent, I mean it could be committed and not just not paid yet, but it is spoken for. Of that amount, the breakdown is you spent 2.1 million on grants and loan subsidies. You've done a lot of capital improvement, $9 million worth. You've had 0.6 million in promotional event grants, and then 4.8 in operating and admin. That leaves you with about $500,000, which is what you have programmed out for this year, this fiscal year. this is how that breaks out, Oak to Myrtle. We tried to get you an update on that project, and the person in charge of that is on vacation till next week, okay? But we will get you an update. As you know, CPH is working on your event center design. You've got $12,526 remaining in your loan subsidy program, and you had $20,000 remaining in your event grants before you approved the $5,100 today. So do you have any, I know that you have a question about that 20,000. So
We'll figure it out.
okay, but I will double check just to be sure that
We
those
can
numbers
move money. I'm not worried about that. We can move money because, you know, just as an FYI to you, we had a carryover of 120, I think it was, and we didn't know what to do with it, so we stuck it right into the streetscape. And we've been just, when we need something, we've been pulling it out of there. So we did have some money left over to move around.
Okay. All right, so what we're going to talk about today as quickly as we can, of course, is a little bit about your programs and policies, and then at the end, we'll talk about what priorities you want me to follow. So the first thing I want to talk about is your event grant. There is a copy of your application in your packet. I've gone through one to redline those things that I think should change in this application, and I want your opinion about these recommendations, and if there's something more to discuss, we can do that. The first thing is, you know, what do we really want those event grants to do? In my very humble opinion, right now your application mirrors the strategies that the special permits reflect for the city. So you have things that contribute to civic or community relations, enhancement of culture and arts, social and human services, or an economic development activity. Those are the 4 things that are mentioned in your application. Now, in my humble opinion, when the CRA funds an event, it should be for an economic development activity, period. Regardless of whether or not it meets any of the other ones, but it's designed to bring people to the city. So I would modify the application to simply state that it must be an economic activity that can be one of the others. Okay, that's a modification I would make there.
Okay.
The other thing is that when you budget for events, it seems to me that we could notify people at the beginning of the fiscal year, hey, we have X, $50,000, $60,000 available for events for the year. We're letting you know through this notice of funding availability that these funds are available. You must submit your application now, and we will determine what events we'll fund for the year. It allows you more planning because you want to be able to bring events in slow periods. You want to be able to really drive economic growth in your community. Right now, it's kind of what's happening is they come in a few weeks before they have the event, and it's not really giving you the opportunity to plan out your whole year. So I would make a recommendation that we start to go first come, first serve based on your NOFA at the beginning of the fiscal year. If you have set aside some money for smaller ones that come along, that's okay. But the vast majority of your events should be programmed out at the beginning of your fiscal year.
Let me ask you this question. Perfect example. You have an event that's happening in February, and you don't have another one that's happening until September. So, are you saying that first come, first served does not seem fair in that way of thinking? Because if my event's not till September, and right now the criteria is 90, you can't come to the CRA before 90 days, so we need to change that as well.
Exactly.
Are you saying, and we did this some years back, where we had everybody come in and give us a presentation,
Right.
and then we picked who we were going to do, and we left a little bit out. You know, but everybody there that was giving a presentation kind of felt like because they're here giving a presentation, they had something coming. You know.
But then you do a 2
Yes.
6 month cycle.
Yes,
maybe
you
in
can.
half, split it half
Yeah.
and half.
You can do it quarterly, every 6 months. You can do it. You can do a NOFA as often as you want to do it.
What do you call a NOFA?
A notice of funding availability.
Okay, all right, I'm with you now.
Yeah. All that really does is tell
I think
people.
we all wanted to know, but we didn't want to.
Yeah.
No problem.
And it's really.
As long as it's not food, but we're okay. You know.
Yeah, it's typically used in the grant world because you don't want to dictate what people do. You want to look at options. So if you have a bucket of money, it's $10,000 for the quarter, you'll have 2 or 3 events competing for it. And that way you get to pick the best ones for the economic growth of the community. Hopefully you'll have 2 or 3 competing for it. If you prefer to leave it as is,
No.
that's okay too.
I have an idea. Let me throw my idea out, then y'all can pick it apart and you can put your idea on. We'll see. In my perfect world, the way I was thinking of doing it is that I would like to, and it doesn't, it's per budget year. So when I say this, it's not forever, it's just that budget year. I'd like to look at and say, okay, we have a few events that we know right now bring in a lot of people and meet our criteria. The St. John's River Festival of the Arts, the craft show and air show, and help me out, Alive After 5. What other big ones am I missing?
Bike Fest.
But Bike Fest, I'm getting to that point. It hasn't happened in a lot of years, so it's not one that's proven. That's why I say it's a year. But you'll see where I'm going with this in a minute. Am I missing another big one?
Celebrate Sanford.
Celebrate. I mentioned that. So in my world of thinking is what I would say is that for the year, we pick what our signature events are. And right now we know we have this 4. I know Bike Fest is fixing to start theirs back up in March and everything. They're starting from scratch somewhat, and I still think we fund it, but I don't think we call it a signature event until it proves itself. And then the next year, now we have these signature events, and those are events that they're getting funding no matter what. Then we put it out on the street, as you put it, to where it needs to be. That way we know we're getting our base events that are pulling the people in and meeting what we want, and then we open the door to within, as you say, NOFA, is that the word?
Yes.
So now we open the door for other events that come in that may want to get into funding.
Not that.
And that's just my thought. I've been thinking about a lot about this. It's a simple fact.
Well, the signature events you're talking about are the ones that require the most funding. It seems
They are.
reasonable.
And
So
but
should they so what you're saying is they should basically come in at the beginning of the year to secure, so that they can reassure us that event is going to go on that year, and we can put aside that funding, and then maybe quarterly entertain some of the other smaller ones as they come before us.
in that.
Maybe they can come in the beginning of each quarter.
But I think we set criteria. Because my thought process behind it is that you get our, here's the other thing. If we keep it all under events and we try to cap it and say, you know what, nobody can get any more than $10,000. Well, that sounds great to say, but the second you do that, you now eliminate Alive After 5's funding. Because they pull in about 23,000, 21 or something in that number. Then I said, well, if we set the criteria for our signature events and we put them in this pile, then this pile we can set criteria for how we want to do it. Personally, I've never liked the 300 number. I like the 500 number for attendees. I think a 300 number is a little too small, But on the same token, another event that I went by and saw that I think is a good thing and we could probably do it as a promotion is the movie in the park. And I did talk to Sonia about that, is the movie in the park. Where that doesn't meet our event criteria, it still meets the criteria we're trying to get for promoting economic development down there and bringing people into downtown on a smaller scale. And I've got an idea that I had on that one as well. I might as well go into it because that's what we're doing here. With the movie in the park, I'd really like to see a matching kind of a thing. I'd like for them to go to the businesses and say, listen, Mr. Business, we need to raise so much money. So if they raise $300, the CRA would match $300 to make sure it goes up to a limit. We got to set a limit of what it costs for each one. But I'd like to see buy-in from the local businesses that are getting money from it. And I think we should support it, but I don't think we should pay for it because we're this open checkbook. And we could get into the area where all we're doing is all our new stuff except for streetscapes is events, and that's not what we need to do. So my thought was to take our signature events and you'd pick them for a fiscal year, and it has to be proven. So I'm not against Bike Fest at all. Bike Fest would then fall into this pot for next year, and then the following year, if they had 5,000 people, they would move over to this pot, and this pot over here for now is something that we know is proven. We know we don't need to vet it. We just say we're funding it. This is what we're funding it at. They know they're approved. And then when you get your 5Ks or people wanting to do businesses, we set an amount, and this is all we're going to give into that amount. So if we run out of money, and you can't come to us and say, you know, if we do it in the beginning of the year or however we do it, when that pot is gone, it's gone. It's done. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I think what I hear you say is we've got our signature, what we call economic development activities.
Mhm.
They're really not event grants. They're
Mhm.
economic development activities
Correct.
that you're partnering in.
Yes.
Okay, you have that list. And then you have the promotion and event grants. And those you're going to establish criteria for. So you have right now, for event grants, you'll set up 500 people, blah, blah,
Mhm,
blah,
mhm.
okay? Then for promotion, which is not an event, promotion is you're going to contribute something to an activity that promotes your area,
Mhm.
okay? It's not an event necessarily, because moving in the park is not an event,
Correct.
okay? So we'll establish different criteria for that.
Mhm.
Okay, so that being said, it gives me a structure by which I can then bring back to you some proposed criteria. Okay, so right now we have the signature, and we're going to call them economic development activities, and then we have promotion and event grants.
Mhm.
Okay,
And the reason I was touching up on that, Paul, is because not with Bike Fest, it's a new event to the extent because it hasn't happened downtown in 6 years, and you didn't have one last year. But there's nothing for us as a group to judge what it can bring in. So, in my mind, it would not make a signature event the first year. You go and do it. It still can come to the funding because now it goes into the event promotions budget. It gets funding. And then next year you bring in 5,000 or 6,000 people. As a board, we would say, okay, you know what? We need to put that over into a signature event for the next year, and then you get out of this pot over there. So you still get the funding there. It's just the way it's being done a little different. And really, I'm only looking at events that, right now, that we move into our signatures that have a proven track record. Any event that's in this pot could end up over in that pot at some point, and vice
Well-
versa.
What's a proven track record?
I'd say bringing in at more than 2,000 people, 1,000 plus people, in economic development. I mean, any event that's in there with the ones I listed, you could not, you'd be hard pressed to argue that point.
Oh my God, it's funny.
The art festival, I mean, I was here for that. That thing
Yeah.
brought in 10,
Oh, sure.
15,000 people. The craft show and the air show, that's bringing in a good amount of people. Live After 5 is bringing in a good amount of people. You know, what it's doing is it's getting away from every single 5K, where a 5K is a good thing.
We do a lot of them.
We do a lot of them, and quite honestly, I think majority of them are happening because they're coming and getting funding. It's not a bad thing, but we're pulling the same amount of people that run. You know, I guarantee if you started looking how many people are running the same 5K, you're paying to bring the same people in.
well,
And
that brings
Isn't that
another
what's
question.
happening with the Live After 5 too? Has Live After 5 gotten larger or smaller? They're starting.
To me, it feels like it's about the same. But with the Live After 5, they've toyed back and forth with ticket sales, non-ticket sales, you know, the booths that they supply, how to go about it. So they're still in a state of flux.
That's kind of getting stagnant, I think.
Alive After 5, which I will give them credit, and I'm not affiliated with them at all, but I do pay attention, is Alive After 5 obviously came out of the gate doing very, very well with their $7 program. And I give Alive After 5 credit because what they have done is they have, and if Steve was here, he'd probably could chime in better, but I've watched Alive After 5 before they're in trouble of being a dead event. They're trying different things, and they're in a reinventing stage right now.
Yeah.
You know, Alive After 5, I wouldn't use the word stagnant, but I would use that they are trying to reinvent the way to entertain. And I think they're going about it the right way. They're trying different things, but it's still pulling a lot of people, and there's still a lot of people
Yeah,
that
no, I
truly
don't
come
disagree
for
with
it.
that, but
So, and
So
I,
they're calling it an economic, what did you call it?
Economic development activity.
Are we better off with Carol Westmoreland and the state going that way to make sure we're, yeah,
say that. What are you talking in lawyer talk on us?
a little bit.
Okay.
Because our goal was to sort of get away from being a party planning committee, and making sure that we're investing in redevelopment and not just, having events,
Yeah.
basically.
Well, the terminology economic development activity actually has a definition. And so what ends up happening is the criteria for that will be something like no less than 1,000 people that they demonstrate. Plus, in addition to that, we have to have a return on investment calculation. which I will work on putting something like that in front of you. But it does entail going to the businesses afterward to ensure that there is a positive impact when those events occur with their receipts and those kinds of things.
TDT, I think it's TDT now instead of TDC. TDT, they have a little bit of a form that they do and they try to track. I can remember back in the day where TDC actually sent people to the event with clipboards and
Yeah.
surveyed people.
Yeah.
That's going back like 10, 11 years, but I think we need to explore that
That's
as well.
why you can't do 20 of them. If you've got 5 of them, it's manageable because you have very limited staff. So
Yep.
if you have 5 of those economic development activities, those are not going to be a problem for any sort of an audit. Your promotions, again, those are not bad because they're really like a loss leader. What you're going to do is you're going to say, I know that I'm going to throw some money at this, and I'm not going to be able to do anything more than demonstrate that a movie happened in the park for the community. And it goes towards building the community. You might, and it's a great idea to have the businesses match, because that gives you a really good argument with an auditor. No, we matched it so that we could bring people into the community to spend money.
I think it's a good idea too.
So that one is a very good idea. Now, event grants per se, if you limit it to your budget and you have criteria for it, there's not going to be a problem with it. You just can't do 50 of them. If you have 20,000 set aside for it, then that's okay. You can do that. It's a fraction of what you take in. We know it's not really about making money on it. You've got your signature events for that. You've got promotions that are a match. Then you've got some event grants that are your you're trying to build signature events with that one. So that's kind of how that circles. So that we'll put the criteria together for you guys to review hopefully at your next meeting. If you might
Okay.
not get everything at once.
Where's everybody at on for events for
That's
people?
fine, I mean, you
How many
just have
people?
to-
What's your number?
Oh, numbers?
What's your number? If you had one, what would it be?
For the event or for, what do you call it?
Not for the signatures.
Program.
Signatures we know is going to be 1,000 plus, but for an event. So I'm going to use Bike Fest because it's this one that's in my mind right now. If Bike Fest is coming to get city costs covered for an event grant, now this is an event grant, what in your mind should be the minimum amount of people to come before you would even consider it? Right now, I believe it's 300.
Yes.
I don't know. 1,000,
You got one, Mike?
500 to
I'm saying
1,000.
about 500.
See, I'm stuck at 500. Where are you at, Paul, on that number?
Well, to answer the question, I have to give some explanation.
Go ahead.
Okay. To answer the question, I would say at least 500. My concern is that you take 20 events, let's say that we've given money to in a year's time, of any type of event, whatever they are, the bouquet bicycles, the motorcycles, whatever they are. It's cost us the city roughly $4,000 per event.
We spent about 55,000.
Okay.
60,000.
So let's just use 420. That's 80 grand. We have to ask ourselves, for the $80,000 that we've approved, are we getting the best return economically for the merchants, for the business people, and for the city? Or should we take events that I'm going to lead into again, which is Bike Fest? Bike Fest was here for 8 years. 2 years it was not. Last year it was resurrected again. It had to be moved because you couldn't do 2 events at one location. That's why it was moved. Okay? It was moved out to 46. Now with the park being under renovation, all of the events that we potentially were going to do down there have to be moved. So Celebrate Sanford's going to have to move. Bike Fest is moved. Bike Fest plans are to be downtown Sanford, throughout downtown, and up through the area where the chamber is and into the marina. Last year it generated right around 20 to 25,000 people at 46. The merchants were unhappy because naturally it wasn't down here. We wanted it to be down here, but you can't have the same events in the same location. It doesn't happen date-wise. So this year it's going to be moved back downtown. The venue's already been approved for the most part, and you're looking at bringing somewhere between 40 to 50,000 people minimum. That's a lot of people for businesses, for the economy, for merchants in downtown Sanford, let alone for Seminole County for beds and nights and breakfasts and those type of things that this event's going to bring. I think we need to look at that type of an event, celebrate Sanford, St. John's River Arts Festival, something that is going to be large enough to bring a large amount of people to this community within that time frame to generate as much funding as they can for the benefit of everybody downtown.
That's what
I'm
we're
not
doing,
saying
though.
I'm not saying that these other small events are not successful, but are we measuring success based upon what we're doing to try to help other organizations, or should we be measuring our success on what it's doing for the benefit of the merchants and the community and Sanford as an identity?
I think we've already established that in the beginning of the meeting. It's
Yeah,
gonna
that's what
be
we're doing.
Predicated on
I mean, we're really-
economic development, and I
Right.
think that's great.
Now that's a must, where
Yeah.
the rest are a and in addition to.
Now, moving back to question, the answer is you can't take a bike event and plan it in 4 months. It's an 8-month event minimum. It's not physically able to be done. First of all, you got to get a location. The location got to be approved. Then you got to work with all the merchants and the people in the community to make sure you can put it together. And then you get the sponsorships, then you get the bands, then you get the things to put together. It's not something that you decide in 4 months. As you know, Charles, you've helped put it together. You can't do that event in 4 months. It's not physically able to be done. It's
Well, I
an event that's going to take, people-wise alone, just to put it on,
Well,
200 people.
I think that's a really good point, but
Yeah.
maybe in that sense, then.
I
that's
guess I'm
something
lost
that
here.
could be-
Because, okay, you're saying 4 months. You lost me when you got to that point. What we're trying to do is we're trying to come up with a number for event grant of what you think a minimum should be.
Right.
And then what's the 4 months?
Well, what I'm trying to get back into the circle is, in order for these large events to happen, they have to be planned and approved far enough in advance for them to be done. Celebrate
So-
Sanford, the St. John's River Art Bike Fest. You can't decide in January of this year that you're going to do these events, and in November, you've got to come to everybody in ahead of time in January to get them approved and everybody to be on board that they're going to allow these events to happen so the locations and the planning can put in place.
Well, that's fine. I mean, that can be arranged. It's like a pregame.
Yeah, that's nothing. I mean,
You
really.
know, a pregame, and then you come in before the event, maybe the quarter before or a month before the event, 90 days, whatever, and say, this is, we applied for the event, we were approved based on what we said we were going to do, and now here's a proof we're going to do it.
But that brings up a very good point in this way, and I've had people complain about this. If we're going to ask them to get all their city approvals first before they come to the CRA, it presents a little bit of a problem. Because some of these folks are, but for, I don't know what happened, I think I pushed too many buttons there. They're but for folks, which means they have a need for our funding or they can't do their event, right?
Most all events are but for.
Right, so if it's a but-for scenario, what I'd like you to consider is allowing people to come and apply for the CRA funding in advance of getting city approvals. And then allow them to get, it's contingent on getting all of that. Because if you do it the other way around, what happens is the Hector Rodriguez's bubble up, and that is, they've gotten all their approvals already. They've gotten everything planned and organized, and they've prepaid everybody and done all of that, and we may very well say no.
Well, do they have to prepay, or can they just get the estimate?
No, because if you're going to book a band for an event,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
you have to prepay.
But the criteria, keep it in mind.
All those Bike Fest bands, like Foghat and wherever they are in Charles, you got to book them 3 or 4 months in advance. You can't call them up 3 weeks before and say who's available. It's not feasible to be done.
Well, think of it this way. 2 things. To your point, I think there's a difference between commission approval and special and Jennifer Brooks' approval. Because when Jennifer approves an event, they've come to her, she has vetted it to see if it meets the criteria for the city of Sanford, and then at that point she sends it to the commission for the commission to bless it, for the most part, vote on it. I think that for us, because if we encumber money, we at least need to have special events, at least giving it the stamp. And they do that way out, because if you're doing an event, to Paul's point, if you're coming in, if you're planning an event I know for a fact the chamber has come to the city 3 months ago about the Bike Fest. So you're already in the motions of that. The city is already starting to work on city costs, and there is a idea of what it's going to be, whether it's going to fit, and whether the city is going to allow it. Because if Jennifer says this doesn't fit the realm of the city, it never makes it to the commission. It stops right there at hers. Now, those people can appeal it to the commission, and if they do that, so be it. But I think from us, I think at a minimum, maybe we not blow off, but maybe we allow them to come to us before they get commission approval, but it has to go through Jennifer's office. And
Okay.
at least we at least need to have the city costs, because if not, we don't even know what we're voting on, and we don't know what we're approving. The second part of it being is that, for the event grant, as we're going to call it, what we're trying to do is we're trying to eliminate the smaller ones. We really are. We're trying to get out of the event business. Last year is your perfect, and I'm an event guy. I mean, I've done every event that's been mentioned. I've been involved in it at some point. And I have to tell you, I sit in here and say, we are giving way too much in events, and it's just here. And really, once they're in front of us, it's hard to say no. It's an awkward situation to say no. You do it. We did it last time. But we need to eliminate that part of it. And we need to make sure that we are getting an ROI on our investment and making sure we're getting a return on our investment, so that, to your point, you make a valid point. It's just that I think we need to set some criteria for when they're coming to us. I personally think 500 is the number. I heard 1,000 bounce out there. I think 1,000, if you got to 1,000, that would be a different scenario. You'd look at it a little different. And I think what you're doing is that what we're saying is, look, we need 4 or 5 signature events. We're willing to help the smaller guy for the, as you call them, the bud events. But either you're going to do a bud event and it's going to be successful and get into a signature event, or it's not. And the chamber and the Bike Fest being a perfect example. You're going to be a bud event here, and after you do your first one, 20,000 people come in here. There's no reason why I wouldn't move over to here and be at this signature event. And a signature event can trump another signature event. You could have not the St. John's River Festival get bumped out because the Bike Fest is now bringing twice the amount of people, and we only have this amount. This is what we've set for the guidelines.
But the signature events don't have to go through special
No.
event permitting.
They're
Okay.
the ones we know we're going to sponsor.
Okay.
The other ones will come to us, and what that does, that eliminates coming and getting the same speech every single.
Gotcha.
I still think we should see the post, because we still
well,
need
yeah, absolutely.
we still need to have a post
The
and all
post
that.
is definitely something that you should be receiving. So I think I got it. The signature events, minimum of 1,000. They are going to be budgeted, so those things are not going to be subject to the same criteria, the special event permit or city approvals or anything. The promos, we're going to, again, those are going to be very small. They're loss leaders, and those are the ones that are just to create unity in the community. The event grants, minimum 500 attendees. Those have to go through the special event permit process first, not necessarily city commission. They can come to us before they get that level of approval, so they don't continue to expend money before knowing if we'll contribute.
So the promo events, the
Movie
little
in the park. The
yeah,
perfect
the
example.
the little ones just starting out that could possibly end up as signature events. in the
Promos are
future.
really. I wouldn't use the word in my mind. I would not use the word event in the promo. In the promo would be something like movie in the park. That would be something that we know is
And it's a
not
match
trackable,
grant.
and it's a match
And
grant.
it's a match
something
grant.
that,
Okay.
and
That's right.
and to be honest with you, that's the only one I can think of right now that would
Right.
actually fit in that. Anything else, if it's bringing people in or something like that, it needs to be an event or meet a criteria. Another example would be the what they were coming for on Sanford Avenue. Quite honestly, that may end up falling into a promo, because we're looking for the businesses to buy in
I think
to a
that's
certain amount,
Charles, I think that's a great
and
idea.
doing it that way.
I really do.
I've really been thinking about this for a long time, because we've just been losing control of it a little bit.
I like
So-
that angle. I really do.
So that would be the different one. Now, going back to the events and touching off on it, you've got first come, first serve. What's your guys' flavor on that? I'm not crazy about that
You're going
terminology.
to do it quarterly.
Do we do it quarterly?
That's what I think.
Sure.
Okay.
You
But
should
if-
know. You should know 90 days before an event that it's going to
And
happen.
you're only going to give so much one quarter, the same amount. And if it's not there, it's
But
not
what
there.
if? But here's the thing. Let's say we
There's
have.
always going to be what ifs, and it's
Yeah,
like,
but you have to
you-
look at it. If you have, let's say you have let's say Bike Fest is coming in, and Bike Fest is going to be $10,000.
you're gonna set so much aside for the signature events. You're gonna set so much aside for promos, so much aside for the other events, and once it's gone, it's gone. You can't pull it out of something else.
Well, again, the
that's called
criteria,
having a budget. I
the
mean,
criteria for a signature event is 1,000 plus, right? Well, what if we have an event come in, a first-time event? They don't have a track record, but they can assure us that they're going to, like the Puerto Rican Festival. That's
if the
not.
money's not there, he doesn't get it. Plain and simple. I don't have a problem with that.
Well, maybe the criteria could be the amount of people, the
No, it's
in
gonna be
excess of
about-
1,000.
It's going to be amount of how much money's there.
But we do, but here's the thing.
Yeah, but I don't
too.
want to exclude somebody who can bring an event to town that can provide that much exposure.
And plus, you got to look at it too. We do, as a board, have the flexibility that if we're not expending money over here, that we can move it over there. Because truthfully, at the end, now you can always encumber it, but truthfully, the rules are that if you do not spend the money, you're supposed to give back to taxpayers.
So we
now,
can make a
that never
special
happens.
exception.
You can. We have that flexibility, but here's the catch-22, and to play devil's advocate is that if you do it for one, I've learned you have to do it for all. So you can't say, okay, we're going to do this and we change the rule, because then that could come to bite you. And I've learned that by watching how the Kool-Aid's made back here. But and it's something to think about. I mean, I think we're on the right track. I guess what I'm trying to grasp onto is how we're giving it out. And if we do quarterly, you could have one person come in and wipe out the quarter.
No, you can't. Because you know how many signature events you're having.
Those are signatures. These are events. These are the ones that are
Well,
coming.
we're going to have to establish how much each one's going to get. And you're only going to get so much in a quarter.
You
we're
mean
not
how
gonna-
much
we're not
money's
gonna-
available in that
Yeah.
account?
What did you call it?
Right.
NF? What?
Right now, your signature
Funds
events
available?
you're going to budget for, right? So you
Yes.
have 10 of those. Let's say you put 50,000 in that account, right? Then your promos, which a promotion could be anything.
Yeah,
A promotion
it could
could
be
be
the
That's a
magazine.
very small amount.
Right.
I
It'd be
mean,
the
we
magazine.
put 10 grand or 5
and
grand in
it's
there.
a match if it's like a movie in the park, right?
Mhm.
So then your event grants, if you're going to you're going to make it available to folks that have 500 attendees or more, and you're going to release notice of funding availabilities on a quarterly basis. Then you're going to have people compete for that money on a quarterly basis, and then you divvy it out how you want. If you have $10,000 for the quarter and you have 5 events come in, then you get to decide, I'm going to give them 2,000 apiece, or I'm going to give all 10
Yeah,
at
they
once.
may not
or I'm
get
gonna-
their
I
full
still
city
think it
cost.
should
Yeah,
just
I'd
be
like-
city costs, though.
Well, they may
No.
not get it all. If
We're
you
not
Yeah,
have,
getting
they
city
have to be
cost.
able
Yeah,
to
it's city
fund part
cost.
of it,
Everybody's in
too.
agreement on that, city cost.
no,
You're not?
I'm not in. Because if you have, like she said, 5 events, and you're giving away $10,000, and the city costs are $14,000.
Well, it shouldn't be
Which-
with a 500 attendees, because it's not going to require as many police officers or a cleanup or anything like that,
Well,
because it's only 500 people.
But if
Yeah,
you had something like Bike Fest coming, because you know Bike Fest is coming.
But then if it's going to be that kind of number, it should be bumped up automatically to a premier.
But if you were setting your criteria for a signature event, the Bike Fest has not met that signature event yet. It's been 3
Well, I think
years since
that,
they had
again,
one,
though,
and
the
I'm not
signature
picking on it.
event-
I'm just
No,
throwing
no,
out
it happened
there.
last year.
Well,
It happened last
The
year.
signature event
just
should
like to
be,
celebrate Sanford, that was a first year thing, and
Right.
if
just
they
gave
can,
them
if
the
they
money.
can,
Well, Celebrate Sanford was a necessity of coming out of the Trayvon Martin stuff. That was something that was put together by the city that carried on. That was a little different at the time, to be honest with you, and it's just
Well,
carried
yeah,
on.
but
So what I
everything's
hear
a
you
little
saying
bit.
is that the signature events are never first-time events.
No.
Those are proven
I think
track
it's
record
crazy.
within the
I
CRA.
think you
Okay.
have to do that, because how do you guarantee a signature event?
Okay, it's
well,
never
again, if they're
registered
going
for
to,
those.
they're going to have to plan accordingly. If they know they're going to have 1,000 people,
That's
they're
what
going to
I'm
have to
leading
get.
into. You know,
Yeah.
Bike Fest, and I'm not against Bike Fest. What I'm saying is that, you know, it hasn't happened here. If somebody audited this and said, when was the last one that happened, you'd be going 3 or 4 years out since it happened here in downtown, and that's all we care about is downtown. We can't say, well, they did it out there, because it doesn't matter. Yes, it happened out there, but everything we are is within our little bubble. So my problem, what I'm leading into, is that if we go with the way Brian's saying, doing it quarterly, and you have Bike Fest coming, which you know they're coming, and you know it's something that we're going to want to get behind and help, then is there not enough money there? I think, you know, as I'm sitting here thinking of it, you know, we apply for a lot of DCA grants and a lot of grants, and And what they do is you fill out the paperwork for the grant, you apply for the grant. Then they will approve your grant, and you'll say, well, you're approved, and you may be number 14 on the approval list.
Right.
And then they'll go and fund the grant, and they'll pay down those many of those grants as they can. They pay down until they run out of money, and then when they run out of money, they're done.
Okay, how about this? We do quarterly, first come, first serve as far as an application goes, but we can adjust our budget at the beginning of each quarter for that quarter. In other words, if they come in the beginning of the first quarter, and they say, where we want to have an event. Well, how many people do you anticipate, blah, blah, blah. We can kind of know where they're going to go with city costs, and we can adjust our budget for that quarter specifically. If we have a quarter, like during the summer, right now there aren't that many events happening. It's too hot outside. We know that's going to be a lean quarter, but towards the fall, we know that's probably going to be a little bit more.
Well, to use Paul's point that he just said a second ago, and I'm just thinking out loud here, is that, quite honestly, anybody doing an event is not waiting till 30 days before to plan the event. So truthfully, in my mind, is if when our fiscal year starts, you say October, November, maybe we start October 1, maybe we do November 1, because quite honestly, you could do the prior year for October to catch it because
Right.
it rolls over. So you say November, you have everybody that is planning an event come to us.
Right.
And they bring us they don't come to us,
Well,
they
that's-
submit it. Because I don't want them coming here.
You
They
already
submit it.
have the criteria for them having to come to you 90 days before the event.
But we're going to have to change that.
Well,
So if that's
then-
almost quarterly.
90 days before the event?
You can't take a huge
This
event like
fella-
the ones we're talking
his
about and
event's
tell
next
them
week.
90 days before the event
Well,
of
we can't do
approval. You
that.
can't, it's
Can't do
impossible planning wise.
Right. Well, I mean, but those events that are much larger, they can come in earlier if they
Well,
want.
hear me out on this, because you know what? I don't even care if you. I'll be honest with you. I sit on the PAL board, and we're doing a 5K. And our 5K, we start working on that thing 9 months out, and it's just a 5K. There is no event out there that I can think of that is not working on an event 6 to 8 months out. And quite honestly, and the more I start thinking about this, the more I like it. I like the idea of having the notices go first come, first serve, and being the way we do it is that they turn in our applications. This is only not our signatures. This is only the event grants.
Right.
They turn in the applications. You vet them. They meet the criteria. We have a session where one of our meetings, we go through them and we say, this is one we should fund.
Right.
This is one we should fund. We put this amount of money in there. We're going to fund these 5 events.
Yeah.
And of the ones that were done, and I'm just going to throw a number out there. We put 40 grand in there, and we fund $15,000 worth of the ones that come. We decide to fund 15,000 of them, and then these ones we say we shouldn't. Well, now we have $30,000 left in
Right.
there that people can apply during the year, and when the money's gone, the money's gone.
That's basically what I'm suggesting too.
Yeah.
That
But I just
we
didn't like the
adjust-
quarterly thing, because the quarterly thing, in perfect example, you have to factor that they're going to come in for probably 10 grand. It's going to be right in there. The city cost for that or what they're doing is going to be between $8,000 and $12,000. And I've just done way too many events downtown. I know what it's going to be. So if you did it quarterly and you only had 11,000 in there, you're not vetting everything. I like the fact that we look at it up front and then we're done with it. Then
Okay.
we're not doing event grants every month unless we have money left over,
Right.
and then it's a perk. You still have to meet the criteria. We
I
get
got
it
it.
done in the beginning of the year, and then we're done.
I think
I'll
that
bring
works.
back the
That
written
gives-
policy to reflect that. So we're
You
going
need
to
to change the 90 days.
Yeah, we're going to eliminate the 90 days because we're going to say at the first of the fiscal year, we have a notice of funding availability. You have 40,000 set aside for event grants. Here's the criteria. We need your applications by X 30 days, 60 days, whatever, from the time we issue the NOFA. And at that point, you'll prioritize them. If you have not assigned all $40,000 out, then that balance I will post. We have the following funding available for event grant application throughout the year. The deadline is the 15th
I like that.
of each month, and that'll be on the website. So, but that way, you can disclose what you have planned to fund and all of that stuff in advance is very transparent.
Yep, Brian.
So what are we going to do still about the large events?
We just said it. They're gonna come to us in November and do them. You're a perfect example. You're doing a March event. You're already planning it. you know, come November 1st, you're going to be given a present. You're going to be filling out the paperwork and turning it in, and then we're going to vet them. It's just cut and dry.
Yeah,
There's
and
no
then
there's
get
no big event that's
prioritized
going to be
and-
not 8 months out, and we eliminate the 90 days. So it limits you 90 days. They come before us, we get them done, and then we're not doing this for the whole year. We're not having so many of them coming in. It's done, and it gives us the out. It gives us the way to say no to where they're not. You know, the money's gone. The money's gone. It is.
Yeah, and
It is
essentially
what it
what
is.
happens is your event has to happen within the fiscal year. Instead of in 90 days or in 60 days.
Yep,
It
within the
has to
fiscal
happen
year.
in the fiscal year.
I think it's perfect.
So-
Brian, you're the one that was
That
going.
sounds good to me.
What's your feeling on it?
I mean, we got to try something, and so it's like, okay.
You agree with what was with the direction? You okay?
Yeah,
With
my only concern is, why do we continue to pay 100% of city costs for every event?
it? Maybe
Once you have an event 2 or 3 years, it's like, okay, it should be getting larger, should be making more money. I think we need to slowly wean off the ones that you don't see any number increase. Like they did that years ago.
They
What
did
did
it
they take
years
off?
ago.
10% off?
that, and they did, and I opposed it.
And then you can have your smaller events because you'll have more funds. I mean,
Well,
that's.
that's one of the points on here, limit to an amount per period. So for example, if you're going to go ahead and set a limit, you're going to fund these signature events indefinitely because of the kind of event they are. Then those events that
Well,
don't.
no, I don't agree we should do that
Okay.
indefinitely either, because
not
if the event's
indefinitely.
not getting larger, it not changing any, it's
Well,
not
that's a
doing,
very good point.
it's
okay?
not doing any good to the city.
But I also said in the beginning was that that's something we look at our signature events every year. A
Yeah,
signature event
well-
may not stay a
well,
signature
yeah,
event.
but-
We change those up
Yeah,
every
yeah.
year at budget time. We decide who our signature
Okay.
events are.
As long as we
Okay.
talk about
We
it.
talk about it. It's not once you get the blessing, you're not forever blessed, because you have to figure that this year they come to Event Grant, and if they have 30,000 people for the chamber come, you have to figure next year we're going to look at that as being a signature event,
Right.
and then we have to look at is this trumping somebody else? Do we move somebody? What do we do?
Yeah.
Or
And-
you limit the number of years they can get it.
Yeah, and see, here's being an event person.
See,
and
eventually someone's going to get taken off that list,
yeah,
and it's going to happen, so.
yeah.
you know.
Majority of the big events, I will tell you, and Paul, you know this, is that majority of the big events, the reason they happen, and is because they're not having to go out and raise the money for city costs. It is very easy to spend money. It's not that easy to make the money, to get the money in donations. A $10,000 donation can make or break a big event. It just can. Your margins that you're making on profit on them. You know, I can tell you, I did Bike Fest for 13 years. You know, our best year ever, we made $38,000, and everything clicked. Our worst year, we lost $12,000 because we got rained on. There's a lot
Yeah,
of factors
sure, I know.
that play into that. Brian, you know, you do events
Yeah,
as well.
I do.
So it is. What's your
So we
what's
just
your
have to,
word
you
you
know.
say? Tufa? What was
Oh,
it?
at the NOFA.
NOFA.
Yeah.
It really does make or break these events. So, chairman in the past did reduce them every year. I fought it every single year because I said, you know, here's the thing: we only have 10 years here. At the end of our 10 years, they got to wean themselves off of it anyway because we're gone. The money goes. And I think, you know, if we can do it legally and within reason, and that's the thing, within reason, then let's be that.
Yeah,
Let's
I
be
mean, you
that.
got to
factor.
start, you
Yeah,
know.
I agree. All
And
right.
I
well
will
worth
put some, I will put some time into checking what other people have as their criteria before I propose something to you so that
Okay.
you're not just looking at something I pulled out of the thin air, you know.
All
I've
right.
done a whole lot of research on that was in my notebook back
The
there.
events, I'm sorry.
We might
have to
find it.
that.
We might find it.
You lost your notebook?
Well, no, I have my notebook, but all the stuff at the back is gone.
All right, so just to make sure I'm clear, we are going to continue to do direct pay of city costs.
I think
We're
so,
not
yes,
going
ma'am.
to a reimbursement program. We've got a promo match program. Everything else is direct pay city costs, whether it's a signature event or an event that applies throughout the year.
And one thing I'd like for you to put in there as well is that an example would be CRA approves up to $5,000. You add things after the fact, and now your costs turn out to be $6,000. You don't get to come back, and we need to have that in there. What'd you say?
Tuffa or whatever.
Tufa.
Tufa.
Tough. We're just going to call it tough. So I would like to add to that it is a one-time ask. You change something, don't come back.
Okay.
You know, and then don't be sitting there when the city's got their hand out looking for a check saying, well, we're going to go back to the CRA or something like that. I mean, you came, you gave us your presentation, we approved it. Do your event. Hopefully you made enough profit.
Okay.
All right.
So, we've talked about attendees, the city approval. Now, do you want any use of vendors or marketing plan included in the criteria? So, for example, how do you plan to market this event or anything?
Yes, I think that's already in there.
Okay.
I think it's
It
already
does
in there.
ask the question, but it doesn't require them to have a marketing plan.
We do need that. And quite honestly, the other thing is that once you set this criteria, if their application does not answer every single question, it just gets
Right.
filed. It
Okay.
just moves on, you know?
Okay, so we've got a post-event report. I'll add the marketing plan criteria, and we are not going to talk about limits of dollars for a period until, because we're going to do that as a practical matter,
Every
as
year.
we review things.
Review.
Yep, for the
Okay.
review. The budget, I think that's on there, and I'm going to say it, but they do need to submit a budget for
Yes,
their
that's
event.
on there.
And what I'm looking for myself on there, I can't speak for you, what I'm looking for, I want to see who's supporting the event in the community. How
Yes,
much of
the
the community is
sponsorship
involved
is-
in it? So I
yes.
want to see sponsorships and stuff.
I got that. Got it. Sponsors will be part of the criteria. The only thing that I think should be removed, and I think that you may or may not agree with me, but we asked them for their financials and we asked them for copies of their board of directors and stuff, and we don't do anything when we get that.
I don't care about that. I don't know why we
Okay.
do that.
So I'll clean that up, just because I don't want any information that we're not utilizing for any reason. I don't do ratio analysis on their financials. I just look at their budget for their event. So, and who's sponsoring it and how much their shortfall is. So I
Now,
think,
their budget, for if it's a nonprofit, the budget would be to know that they're financially stable.
right,
That we're not giving them money that's going, you know,
we're direct paying city costs,
Yep.
so.
you're right. Okay,
You know.
I'm good.
All right, so I think we've talked about that. I'm gonna give you a clean copy of the criteria and application to reflect what we've discussed today. And the other last question about this is, do we want to allow people to double apply? So if they go to Celebrate Sanford for that grant, are we gonna entertain a grant application here? We can make sure they don't get funded for the same things, but do we want them to only apply for one or the other, or will we allow them to apply for both?
What do you refer
We
to?
like it.
Celebrate Sanford is $20,000 that Tom George has in a bucket.
Oh, yeah,
So it's like a,
right.
you know,
But you see, they've set it up. We're a separate entity. But
Okay.
the city, if the city wants
So
to
they can
sponsor
apply.
something, let the city sponsor. If the
Okay.
city wants to get involved with it, you know, 4th of July or anything like that. I mean, if they ever came to us, we'd have to look at it. But the
they
city,
can only issue that grant in, I think it's September and October. Is that when?
yep.
And if they apply to us as well, I can get with Tom and we can make sure that they're not funded for the same.
Tom does. We do that now.
Okay,
Yep.
cool.
And
All
really,
right.
what they're trying to do is they're trying to build up in that time frame. So,
Okay.
and that's the
so-
prime. One it was picked because that's one of the prime times to do events too. Is that time when it's fall. All right.
Okay, so we are done discussing events. The next thing that I'd like, and I can really summarize this very quickly. I really think that your loan subsidy program is a terrible idea. I looked at all of the presentation information that the last gentleman did, that Mr.
Tunis.
Tunis. The problem with the loan subsidy agreement or loan subsidy program is that it is really like an interest buy-down program, okay? In a situation where most of your folks are self-funded, it makes no sense to do it. And secondly, that's where you had this problem with the loan subordination issue, okay? If you look at I put in your packet a copy of the 2 grants that are done at the county. There is a mini grant, which is very much like the facade grant, and there is a redevelopment and construction grant, which is very much like your loan subsidy, except that it also addresses new construction. If we go to something similar to what the county has, I think it'll be much cleaner for you. You have not had a recapture in all the years that you've done a loan subsidy. not one. So, you know, it makes it much cleaner. It's a true grant. You can set limits if you want to. The county has a 20% contribution limit. Regardless of how they fund it, even though we get the sources and uses of funds to look at, we don't do a loan document of any kind. We have a clawback in the agreement, which means if their improvements don't remain in place for at least 5 years, we get our money back. We have to sue them for it. But it's a much cleaner process.
I like the idea behind it. The only thing I would, and I'm sending this to Jennifer, is that I believe the loan subsidy was done through city ordinance, and I don't think. Yeah, you just changed the ordinance on it.
Revised it again
Yeah.
in the last
But your
meeting.
ordinance was revised to allow the subordination.
Right.
It doesn't require the CRA to do a loan subsidy.
No,
So,
and that was one of the questions in the beginning, because now they've got us as our separate entity, is that why are we even having to ask them what we want to do, because we can do it ourselves. But in this case, I think we probably need to walk gingerly on what we do to make sure we're involving the commission so that we're not stepping on toes. Because it was done with city ordinance, it was done through the commission, it was done with a different mindset, and I think you just need to.
we can leave it alone. This
I don't
is
mind,
just a
yeah.
recommendation, but we can leave it alone. All I'm saying to you is that it's a very complex program, and it's not necessary because, in fact, if you have someone that's self-financed, they don't qualify for it. That's not what the program was for. The program was for an interest buy-down.
It was originally, and it originally was done for Cindy's Dance Studio. The program was originally designed around Cindy's Dance Studio and the CRA trying to get people to redo the old buildings. And they came up with a buy down, but then they also came up with the way to make sure that people aren't taking advantage of it at that time is when everybody was flipping property. So they'd buy a property cheap, put a little bit of money in it, and flip it. So we wanted to make sure that didn't happen. And then, it really got to where as more people started self-funding, and it just kind of carried over to that.
Now,
Somewhere down the
reason
road,
why
it changed.
That flipping doesn't work is because the agreement, at least the one the county makes them sign, any transfer of ownership whatsoever, whether it be to an affiliate or anything, triggers a requirement for them to get it approved and assigned. So that grant has to be assigned for that period of time. I've gone through that nightmare over there too. But you don't have to eliminate your loan subsidy grant if you don't want to, if you go back to what it was originally intended for. If someone has a loan and they need a buy down, they should apply for that.
But it doesn't. It's not effective as the buy down, and it gets very complicated.
I
Very
agree it's complicated.
And I still think the redevelopment loan subsidy or loan grant. I mean, I think we need to make it a little more simpler.
Okay.
I think we
That's
need.
what she was trying to do.
But I'm just being very cautious as not to go stepping on toes. I
Right.
really, I agree with what you're saying,
now,
but I'm
to
saying.
avoid stepping on toes, you leave the program in place, okay?
Uh-huh.
And people can apply for it if they truly need an interest buy down.
And then do what? Do a
Right.
redevelopment grant?
Then you have your construction and redevelopment grant, similar to what the county has.
Let's do that.
And it's a
Okay.
brand new program, which I
okay.
will give you the criteria for, and you guys can tweak it,
That'll work.
okay? And then
Yeah.
beginning October
Perfect.
1, it's available based on what you budget for it,
Perfect.
okay?
Okay, I like
All
that.
right. And the same thing applies with the facade grant. I think that the facade grant program is just fine. It's very much like what the county had as a mini grant program. The only difference is that we did not fund anything interior. Right now, you allow 40%.
Yeah, who changed that? It was 20 or 30% at one time.
Yeah, now it's 40%. The facade improvement grant was really just meant for facades.
Mm-hmm.
So it really should only be street view type stuff.
Well, that was a rehabilitation, wasn't it? It's
No,
not
rehabilitation
facade.
could be for anything. Rehabilitation, you can do facade, interior, exterior, it don't
Well,
matter. It's all
I'm
rehabilitation.
Then where's the 40%? I wasn't even
Somewhere
aware
it
of
got
this.
changed, and I think it changed when I was on here, but it was changed since I did something at the chamber
So would you
before I was on
agree
this board.
your new redevelopment and construction grant can capture anything interior that you approve, because that's a rehabilitation or new construction. Your facade is strictly exterior. Okay?
Right.
Your facade grant is limited to $10,000.
Mhm.
Do you want it to be a match, or do you want it to be a straight $10,000 grant?
No, it is a
It's a match
50/50.
right now.
It is match
to
right now. Do
10.
you want it to remain match?
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
so.
so.
All right, so we keep that one in match.
I
Then
think
your-
we need to give a little bit for interior, and the only reason being, y'all, if I'm just talking out loud here, is that if you're doing something on the facade that carries into a porch or carries into an entrance and it carries it in, I think we ought to allow a little bit into that. And I
Okay.
think 10, maybe 10 or 20%,
Okay.
not 40.
Well,
What do you mean into a porch?
Well, no, I'm saying
That's
let's
still
not a porch,
facade.
but if you're going, if a facade, but let's say you're carrying some kind of a design that carries inside, you know, that you're doing a, I don't know.
Any
I think you
building
need
would
to
have a door. The door would
be part of the facade.
well,
Yeah.
it's on the outside. Anything on
Well,
the inside.
I can speak to you based on what the county's program is. The facade includes anything that's visible from the outside. That's what they're calling a facade. So, for example, your windows, your doors, your roof line, your awnings, anything like that, landscaping, all of that qualifies as a facade signage. So you don't have
Exterior
a broad.
Let's see that we.
Exterior AC.
No, that's the other thing. We don't
No,
want.
see, that's the other thing that they exclude. They exclude anything that's HVAC or electrical.
Or
and they
roof.
do that
Roof? No.
Roof,
on
no.
purpose.
Oh, you need a roof.
No.
One of the things too that they exclude over there is anything that's a single trade. So if you're doing a facade improvement and the only thing you're doing is painting, they don't allow you to do that. You have to be doing a combination of trades. So you have to actually be doing maybe some landscaping along with painting, maybe a little bit of something to your windows, something like that. They don't want people to just come in and say, I want a new sign and qualify for the facade. That's what they were trying to avoid. So it has to be a combination of trades. It has to be exterior only. They don't do anything interior, and the other reason why is because you have to keep in mind that anything that's furniture, fixture, and equipment doesn't become part of the real property. So if it doesn't become part of the real property, we shouldn't be investing in it.
Makes sense. I'm okay with that.
Okay, so I'll mirror that.
You ready? Mike?
Yeah, it
Paul?
sounds good to me.
Okay,
No
so I'll get
interior?
you a copy of that.
And HVAC
criteria.
would never be an issue anyway because we don't allow HVAC for,
Well, you
it's
don't want
gotta be
some-
rooftop and it's gotta be
Yeah.
covered.
So you don't want people coming in to get a new roof or get a new air conditioning or something like that.
Okay,
I think the multiple trades is a really good idea.
I do like the multiple trade.
okay.
What, Brian?
Awnings.
Yes.
Facade?
Yes. Always has been. Why are you doing an awning?
No, I was just thinking
But,
of a lady
that brings
that.
up another very good point. The program as it's written for the county, you can't come to the CRA to fix a code violation. Okay? You can be on notice, but you can't have a code violation or a code lien.
See, I brought that
The
up a
lien
while
we knew
ago.
about, but not code violation.
See, a violation that I learned from the other lady over there, where those are two different things. You can be on notice, which is not documented or anything, and that's what she was. I did find this out later.
Oh,
She was
no.
on notice, but she had not gone before a magistrate or been fined or any of that.
You
So,
get initial notice of violation, you have like 10 days to correct it,
Mhm.
and if you don't, then you get a notice.
See, but that was my whole point back then when I brought it up. I don't like the idea of somebody being on notice or having a violation from the city and then coming to the city to say, hey, fix it for me.
Now, that's in the
it's
minutes.
counterproductive.
But remember, it's a match. Remember, it's multiple trades. So if you have a violation for
Well,
your
it's not
awning,
multiple trades.
it
No, we're
is if you
changing.
come for a grant.
Well, right
Well,
now
what
it's
she's
not.
doing, she could say it is multiple trades, and I can understand where you're coming from because of using that building as an example. She's got carpentry, she probably has electric, she probably has roof. You have 3 trades right there.
Yeah, but roof's not in it.
Let me
Roof's
ask you
not
this.
covered, electrical's not covered.
a new roof's not covered, but if you're doing an awning or something along those lines,
Right, it's a canopy, so.
it's a canopy. Well, let me ask you this. I mean, what's the goal of the facade grant? Is to make the area look better.
Right.
So, truthfully, in my way of thinking, is that if somebody got written up because their canopy is caving in, and that's a violation, well, that benefits us. Another
Right.
perfect example. You got the Wells Fargo Bank has those copings are been falling off. that's a facade, because if the coping falls off and they don't replace it, it looks like heck. And quite honestly, if they get violated because it did fall, that's still facade. So I don't think, now, if they're running liens and there's an outstanding lien that they've been to magistrate and everything, I don't think we can give money at that point. But if they've been noticed and they come to us,
Would be okay.
I'm okay with that.
And here's the other thing too, remember that when you are paying to help someone remedy what would become a code violation, it does you no good if they can't, it's a match, so they have to have some skin in the game. But if it becomes a lien and then it continues to grow in fees and those kinds of things, and that person couldn't afford to do the fix in the first place, it's going to continue to look bad, and you're not going to get anywhere.
Here's the only thing, and I know this probably won't happen, but the only thing I don't want to do is create incentive for somebody to neglect a property to such an extent that we're forced to, our arms being twisted to go ahead and help with the repair. Because they let it go so bad and now it's become a blight.
But you got to think about it. If they let it go that far, chances are they don't have the money to get it fixed anyway. Because if you cared about your property and you've got a problem, you would come to the CRA and utilize a grant or something to fix it. So if it gets to that point, there's probably a reason behind it.
Like I said, it's unlikely, but it can definitely
And you
like-
decide to say no. They still have to ask.
Yeah, that's the other thing. They're not guaranteed it. As a board, we can say no.
They can still say no.
I think we ought to stick to facade. I do like your two construction trade thing. I really like that terminology.
All right, and then, let's see. Right now, your criteria is every 10 years on both grants. Do you want to leave that alone?
That's a criteria that I don't know was set by statute or what it was set by. It's
No,
always
it's
been
not
in
by
there.
statute.
We can fix.
You-
We
Well,
can change
see,
that.
that's
Program.
it's not going to matter because we're going to sunset in 9.5 years now, anyways.
Right, but you can do
So-
a facade grant every 5 years if you want to. It doesn't have to be 10. You can do, you can do
Oh.
whatever you want. The question is, do you want to leave it alone or do you want to change it?
I think we leave it alone.
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't want somebody to come in and decide they want to redo their building because it's just updated
got it.
and we've already got it looking good.
All right, and you already have a limitation by physical address.
Yes.
So we're going to leave that alone, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Then security instrument, when it comes to facade grants, we don't do one.
Mm-mm.
Okay, we're going to leave that
You
alone.
got skin in the game. You're
All right.
matching it.
All right, and then I'll match your application to match what you told me the criteria is. Okay.
Okay.
Now, the new construction and redevelopment grant, what I'd like to do is to put in front of you what the county does. Okay? I've redlined the agreement that the county does based on what I think you would
Give them a little
want.
history on that too, because this is the first you're hearing about new construction. Prior to, because at the meeting when she was planning for this work session, she asked me, what are some of the things you want to look into? And as we were talking, I said, I would really like to see about setting up a new construction grant. As a CRA, we've been doing a lot of redevelopment, and we've been doing a lot of, facade grants, but now we're going into a stage now where we really want people to build something new. Building something new is immediately putting TIF dollars into the area. You're not supposed to say it as as a return on investment because we're not investing, but it's building up the tax base for the most part. So I asked her, how can we go about doing it? I was thinking kind of along the same lines as a redevelopment loan grant, where we max it out. If you're going to build a new building, new construction, period, new construction, not tearing, not redoing an old building. You have to start with a vacant lot, build something new. And we do it at the same percentage of the construction cost, not to exceed more than what you can get for rehabilitation of $113,000, $114,000, and do something to spark people to start building these vacant lots. You've got Mark Nation, you've got a lot of people with a lot of money that are looking at us right now, and I thought it would be a good thing. So I asked her, how do we do that? And now she's
We have
up to
one.
speed.
The county has one. It encompasses new construction as well as redevelopment, and the reason they do that is because if you remember, what I mentioned to you with their mini grant is what your facade grant is. It's limited to a $10,000 scope. The rehab and new construction is everything above that. Okay? So that's how they did it. That doesn't mean that's how you have to do it. But if you want to be able to rehab a property and their budget is more than $10,000, okay, such as this Palmetto property, let's say it was with the new owner, okay? They would be applying under the rehab and new construction. So if you have a vacant lot, or if you have to demo and build new, or if you have a redevelopment project that exceeds the $10,000 scope, you would then have this application to work with. You don't have to say yes. You can prioritize them. You don't have to accept any. It's not guaranteed. But it gives you the flexibility to say, you know what, we want to go ahead and invest in that rehabilitation, which is going to be a $50,000 scope, versus,
Well,
limiting them to.
rehabilitation would still fall under the rehabilitation grant and then the rehabilitation subsidy loan, because now we're going to have two different programs.
Right.
The new construction would be just that, new construction. I don't think we mix them together under
Well,
one.
but be careful, because what happens is if it's your loan subsidy, they have to have a loan.
But we're fixing that by calling it a redevelopment grant, because now if you have a loan, it's subsidy. If you're self-funding, you're going to the grant.
Okay, but I didn't realize we were doing that, so I stand corrected, because
Yep.
okay, so we're gonna separate that one. We're gonna do a rehab.
Why don't we possibly look at new development, new construction, looking at that the same way that we've looked at some events, city costs as an incentive. Maybe either a discount or to take care of impact fees, because now that's an incentive right there, because
You can do that, but you're not investing in bricks and mortar, so that means you're not going to have a return. So if
I
you
like
go-
bricks and mortar. I want to see somebody building new buildings.
well, impact fees, you have to do that
Yeah,
before
but,
you build.
well, before you build, so there's no guarantee that it's gonna be
One thing I
built.
thought of too is that we could also fund, as part of the, if you came for a new construction grant, is that we would fund the expedited services through planning and
I
all
was
that.
thinking, yes, that would be
if
another
we
one.
fund an
And we
impact
would fund
fee,
that
for
and then
example,
percent. Where I like your city, your impact fees and all that, which more than likely they may use them for that,
I
She brought
and
up a
that's
good
fine.
point.
I think
Yes,
impact fees you can defer, but I don't believe you can do any waivers by law on impact.
we can't.
No, we would pay them.
Okay.
Yeah, we would fund it.
We can't waive them, but we could reimburse them.
Yeah, well, what I was thinking is that on this is that we would say, and these are just talk about, the project's gonna be a $300,000 project. We do whatever, the same kind of math we use for rehabilitation that we were doing if you're building it out. Gives you a scope of up to $115,000. And of that 115, we fund out when you're done. We don't put any kind of lien or anything because we really don't care. It's a new building. It's gonna stay on the tax roll no matter what, who buys it. We don't care. It's a brand new building. And then on the back end is that, we also pay to expedite their plans to the city, because there is a fee for that. We cover that, and then we give them the money to build a brand new building.
That would have to be paid up front.
What's that?
Expedite the,
Yeah,
Fast
so
track.
would be impact fees.
Well, I don't
Well,
want to touch
but
impact
again,
fees.
it
I don't
would-
want to touch
and-
impact
and-
fees.
Yeah, I'm
there's
really
no-
against
I want it
anything
just
that's
cash.
prepaid.
Because
Yeah,
what's going to
but
happen
there's
is,
no- Yeah,
what's
there's-
going to happen is that you're going to have somebody that's financing it through the bank, and we're going to approve it. The bank's going to know that they've got 100,000. We'll just use that number, 100,000 coming from the CRA upon the CO of the building, and they'll do what they did on rehabilitation grants. They sit back and wait for that money, and when it comes, it goes to them and goes to pay the loan off. And it has enticed a few banks to give money, and we don't care about that part of it. We just care about the new construction. And I think now the expedited, all that is the same we do for special event grants. We just forward it straight over to them. Once your plans are submitted, you build the CRA will pay the expedited. When you're done and you get your CO,
what if
we'll write a
it's
check.
never built though?
That's exactly right.
Then we're out $80 or whatever the amount is.
No, it's gonna cost more than that, but
The
I thought
expedited-
about the same thing. And I said, well, wait, there's no
You
guarantee.
can't fast track anything though without the plans
Yeah.
to submit. And if they already have the plans,
Yeah, but if it's only $80, it doesn't. that's-
So
Claremont
Brian-
has an impact fee assistance program for up to 50% of police, fire, water, and sewer.
Through
For
Sanford?
change- For Claremont, for change in use. 3 categories eligible: new businesses in the CBD, which I guess
Right.
is there, expansion of existing business, or change in use of existing building.
Is that the CRA paying it, or is that?
City of Claremont.
See, that's the
CRA.
city. See, we'll be overstepping our pay grade if
CRA
we do that
impact-
way.
CRA
Well, we
impact fee assistance.
We can't do that,
Okay.
but we can
Alright.
fund. Well, Brian, to your point, and this is what I'm thinking out loud, to your point, if
Yeah.
we say yes, well, if we approve it, in order for them to come to us, they've already had to gone to a bank, they've had to have plans drawn up, they're submitting plans to us and showing us what the project is going to be, showing that they have the money, either cash or a bank, and then at that point we approve it. And once we've approved it, we say we then pay for the expedited, whatever it is. If it's not built, we don't come off.
Right.
We don't pay until it's done.
Right.
I don't think you
The
lose.
same thing would apply though with
Worst case
impact fees as
scenario,
well. It's
you
not going to
lose-
be paid for until the application.
Worst case scenario, you lose the expedited fee, and I believe the expedited fee is only a few $100. It's not a lot because I wouldn't.
It's
ask.
not a lot, but it's not a lot of incentive either though. That's the
Yeah,
thing.
that's not,
That's just an added thing. The money you're getting is the incentive to build.
exactly.
If you're going to build a $300,000 thing, you're getting $90,000 of it as a grant. You know, of course you're going to build your building. Means you come out of your building on a positive note from the get-go. I think it's a win-win.
All right, so am I hearing that you want to do an impact fee assistance program
No.
too? No.
I wanted what I'd like to see done, and you guys chime in on your house. What I think I'd like to see done would be you come to us with a scope of work.
Okay.
In order to come for the grant, you have to come with plans of what the building's going to look at, where it look like, where it's going, and either show that you have bank financing or cash to do the project. At that point, we need to figure out a formula to come up with how much to give.
How
Maybe
about
it's-
reimbursement?
That's just it. When it's CO'd, we write you a check.
Exactly.
No
I think
different than we do for
reimbursement is the safest.
Yep.
And they have to have 3 bids and all of that good stuff. It's very similar to the county.
I don't even know that you go 3 bids.
You would want 3 bids.
Yeah, but if it's a contractor doing it,
That's true.
he's
They're
going to get 3
self-performing.
bids, and he's going to go get 2 that they're not even going to do the job. I don't even know that we
Now,
go that
this
deep
is
into
only
it.
on a building, not an add-on. You know, there's a lot of
Brand new
details.
construction. It
Well, you
means
can have
if-
brand new construction with an add-on. You can add something on.
then we need to clarify what I'm
That's what I
thinking.
say, there's a lot of details.
Vacant lot, new building. Not
But
adding
demo
on.
can happen. Demo for a new
Knock
building
down a
can happen.
building, which you can't knock down these buildings around here. Are you kidding?
Some of them are falling anyway.
No, they fall. That's a different story. But yeah.
SunTrust was one, so.
All right, so I
Whatever
hear
you can
we
have.
got a rehab grant, which is very similar to the loan subsidy, except that it's self-funded. Okay, then we have the loan subsidy, which remains the same. Then we have a new construction, altogether just new construction.
New construction.
All right. New
What is the
construction.
percentage on the rehabilitation? Is it like 33% of the scope? Is that what it is, Bob? I think so. I think you follow that. I think as the rehab, as the new construction, 33% of the scope up to $115,000 max. Same as we do for rehabilitation.
You can find out from Cindy the
Yep.
formula.
I think you find I think you use that formula, you use the max amount,
Okay.
and then quite honestly, at that time, all we're doing is moving money from rehabilitation. It's all in one
Do
pot.
you fund landscaping at this point?
Under new construction, if it's part of the scope, we don't care. We're
And
only
you
going
do
to a
it
certain
under
amount.
rehab? Do you
No.
fund it under rehab?
You can only get one. You can't do redevelop. You can't do rehab to do landscaping on a new construction. New construction would be the whole scope of the job. If the whole job is $300,000, that includes parking and everything.
No, I mean your rehab and loan subsidy are 2 of the same, except one is self-funded and one is a loan.
Right.
Do you currently pay for landscape under your rehab program?
Yes,
Okay. All right, that's all I wanted to know. And then,
but I will tell you, majority of the time, what they've done is they've come and gotten the rehab, and then they've come and gotten the facade,
right, that's
is
a
what they've
real,
done.
Okay,
Which is fine. At the time when we talked about it, it was fine with us because you're coming for the facade, you're matching it 50-50, so
right.
you still got skin in the game.
Right, the only thing that I do, and because we had the same situation with the mini grant and the redevelopment grant, the only thing that I am very cautious about is that when they do come in for a facade improvement, that scope of work has to be $10,000 or less.
Mm-hmm.
So when they come in with their
Make
rehab,
a valid point there. I see what you're saying.
see, that's the problem. When they come in for a rehab, that scope of work has to be greater than, and it cannot include the same categories.
In the
So-
past,
Yeah.
we have done rehabilitation grants because that's all we've ever done, and and they've piggybacked on a facade grant. Perfect example, the building that we're talking about that they're doing the overhang. She came for rehabilitation and a facade. Is that double dipping? Yeah, she did. She
Only
got
if
both.
you're paying for the same categories of work. I don't allow that. In my
I have to be honest with you. I think they've broken out a piece of it to do facades. I think Sanford Brewery did one and did both.
Well,
of them.
yeah, they did both,
They did both.
but the
That's okay,
facade
'cause
is
we're talking
going,
about October 1 going forward.
Yep.
Whatever's been done in the past remains there.
I think, and you guys, I think that if you come for rehabilitation, you don't get to come. You can't double dip.
I agree.
Because why not just put it all into your
One or the
rehabilitation?
other,
It's
then.
one or the other, you know?
Well, we've done quite a few.
We
to
have,
both of them.
but now that you say it out loud, I mean, we've done it, but I've never said it out loud until you just said it, where all of a sudden you think,
Yeah.
You don't
Why are we
qualify
doing that
for a facade improvement and a redevelopment or rehab because your scope is limited for the facade. It's $10,000.
Well,
It's
no,
exterior
no,
only.
it'd be 20 because it's 50%.
Right, I mean, in other words,
Sub two.
we're only gonna give 10 of
Right.
their, and it's a
Mhm.
match. So,
Okay.
okay, so don't worry, they're not gonna qualify for both, once we get our criteria cleaned up.
okay,
So, and we're gonna stick with the same 10 years for both of them. We're not doing anything, well, under new construction, are you doing anything that's furniture, fixture, or equipment? No, so it's only shell,
hmm
no finishes,
No.
okay.
Well, when you say finishes, you mean interior stuff like desks and stuff, furniture?
Right, no
we've,
furniture, fixture.
we've never done that.
Okay,
Never
they get a building, in other words,
Where do
they
you
can
draw the
paint
line
it.
on that?
What do you mean?
Is that kitchen equipment, ancillary systems? It's built in.
It's built in. Maybe you make it part,
But
like they
those
do on
are
a
trade
lease.
items, so
Yeah.
they finance those separately,
Yeah.
and they don't transfer with the property. So, from a legal perspective, I don't think we can invest in those.
You know, the perfect example would be the fuel, is what we paid on fuel. Because fuel built a kitchen, and did we fund it? I don't know. I can't answer the question. I don't know. I'd have to refer to Bob, being the most.
I
I
think
can't-
it's a trade item, so what happens
don't know
is
if
if
we
you're a
paid 'em yet.
restaurant and you put,
You would wanna pay,
the
so
stove?
you would wanna pay for building,
yeah,
like, regardless of what their use was gonna be, you would wanna get involved in paying for whatever their use is gonna be.
Yeah.
You would just be rehabbing or upgrading the facade and the actual building without getting into
their furniture, fixture, and equipment
Does that
needs to
sound
be excluded.
Right? That'll be on track there.
Yeah.
Because they can move that. Think
Sure.
about anything that can be
I
moved.
don't look at it.
That's
don't
my thing.
track it.
Is that if they move it, you know, they can
Yeah.
go out of business and.
Think about anything that can be moved. So if you have a refrigerator because you sell beer, that's usually financed separately from the building if you're a business. So what you want to stay away from is investing in anything where they have a separate, where someone can come and repo that refrigerator and your.
A restroom would be one thing, kitchen would be
Or
different
simulated.
versus a store.
I think it's okay to fund the toilet, but I wouldn't fund the refrigerator and the stove.
We didn't fund Sanford Brewing Company's brewers. We only funded the building and leading into it. You remember, guys?
That's exactly right.
So we didn't do that.
So I get that.
Okay.
get
So you're really limited one grant per address.
Yes.
So they can't do a rehab and 5 years later ask for a facade grant because it's not going to happen.
No. Yeah, if you got a rehab grant and your scope was, and you got 115,000, 2 or 3 years later, you shouldn't be coming back to us for a facade improvement.
But now, one thing we have done in the past was that if you came to us for a facade grant and you only used $2,000 of it, we have allowed them to come back until they've maxed that grant out. It
Well,
has
and
happened.
there's no reason why you can't let them come back for a
Okay.
rehab grant after they did a facade, because as long as it's not the same categories.
Oh,
Okay.
well, that's what I
Right.
just said though.
Yeah, the same, so in other words, if
The
you
same
replace the doors and
grant.
windows, you can come back under your rehab grant and replace your doors and windows.
Okay.
Those are excluded.
Okay,
All right.
so
I'm gonna
different.
go.
And that's what I do now with the county. So I will implement the
Okay.
same
It's not,
process.
it's a matter of paying for the same thing twice.
Right.
It's not a matter of having something on the same property twice.
Mhm.
Right.
But they still can do a facade and a rehab grant individually within the time frame at any individual address.
Right.
As
They
long
just
as they're
can't
not
fund the
doubling up
same
on the scope of
categories.
work.
Correct, yes.
As long as
You
you're not
get
doubling
one
up.
bite at the apple every
Right.
10 years. So if you come and you ask for doors and windows,
Right.
in 5 years, you
Right.
don't get doors and windows.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so then security instrument. Are we gonna have any security instruments for this new construction grant?
Well, they won't get their money till it's done anyway.
I think it
Right.
needs to be
So-
completed
Right.
upon CO of us, if you going out there and
Lien
doing it.
waivers, paid
Yep.
receipts, all of that
Paid
good
receipts,
stuff.
and
Do we do a title search?
Yes.
I'm sure
Okay,
we'd have to do
title
that.
search
Yes.
to
Yes.
verify that. Now,
Same thing we do
title
for
search-
rehabilitation.
Now,
Yes.
remember, lien
Because I've been requiring them on the other
Right.
ones since I started here too.
And then Lonnie was
That's been a
requiring
little
them as
bit-
well.
But
Yeah.
lien rights
Well,
don't
we did it as
expire until 90 days after your certificate of completion. right?
Say that again?
Your lien rights don't expire until 90 days after
Oh,
you're
you mean
done.
construction liens?
Right.
Okay.
So my question then becomes, do we reimburse them after we get a clear title search after 90 days, or do we pay them in advance?
Well, let me ask you this question, Jennifer. If I build a building and I've gotten a CO and I have a construction lien or something come up on it, and all of a sudden, because they won't issue, that doesn't change the TIF money going in? I still owe my taxes, right?
Right.
So really and truthfully, that's our game. Once the building's up, as long as they're paying taxes, we've gotten what we want out of it. So
But were we irresponsible in not ensuring that the subs and their material men were paid?
is that our responsibility, though? That's what I'm
As-
asking.
If we get a notice to owner, it is. Yeah.
That's lawyer stuff there. Jennifer, you can walk us through that one, can't you?
Sadly, I'm very intimately familiar with
Yeah,
that.
and you get into issues with your performance bonds and your payments bonds under new construction, and if you can get your lien releases from all your subs and your vendors, and it is a nightmare.
I
Do you
say
have to
we
do that
wait.
before a CO or after a CO? Mike, you know that.
Well, the
It
bank
has to be
would,
done,
After.
it has to be done,
Well,
I don't know if
but
it's before or
it's
after
irrelevant.
actually,
But
but you have
it's part of the
45 days
contract.
in which to do it.
Part of the contract with your payment submissions, you have to sometimes.
That's what I do, I just do it as I go per draw
It depends.
schedule.
But then a lot of times contract subs will provide you with a partial, and really the partial is worthless,
yeah.
you know?
Can you research and find out the best way we should do on when we pay? Because that's really what this
And
is narrowing down
here's what I
to.
recommend. I've done this 20 years.
Never.
The only thing I'm gonna say is this. I have dealt with many a project, and if it's private property, we should wait the 90 days, get a clear title search, and reimburse at that point.
Works for me.
Well, could you,
Got it,
could
yeah.
you just simply set up an
Sounds good.
escrow? Oh, I guess it really
That
wouldn't
works
be
for me.
necessary
I
because.
like
can
90
you
days.
imagine an escrow?
Well, no, not until the liens are
Well,
satisfied.
when you.
That's 90
when you
days,
have a lien, we're gonna
Well,
have
up to
a lien
90,
on
it could be.
Yeah, that's right.
So we do have a security instrument
I
for
would think
these?
so.
Okay, so.
Why don't you guys look into it and tell us the
Okay,
best way to do
So
it?
the security instrument is the biggest question, because if it's a grant and we have a clawback in the agreement, I don't think we need to record anything, but we do a title search and we go ahead. So let's
We don't
talk
have a
about
clawback
that.
in this. I don't think there's a need for a clawback unless you guys
No.
tell us different. I mean,
Okay.
because really, our goal is to get it on the tax roll and get a new building up. Once it's done, they can sell it as many times. Hopefully, if they sell it for more money, and the tax goes up.
So I will talk to you about what security instruments you think are appropriate
Okay.
for a new construction grant, okay? And that brings us to, and I think I've got all, bear with me if I forget something you told me today, but it's recorded, so I should be good to go. The last thing I want to talk to you guys about is these studies, because we do have some discussion about a parking study within the CRA because of the catalyst site and some of those other things. Did you want me to do anything with regard to getting a parking study done?
Because you asked me, because you brought it up to my attention, I obviously reached out to some people to ask what it would take to do it, and it's not a very big expense to do it. I think doing a parking study would probably be beneficial, and Bob could probably do this better, because with the catalyst site and everything going on, it would not only help us, it would help the people with the catalyst site, and it would help the city.
I would think they've already done it.
Yeah, that's, I was just gonna say
I
that.
don't believe
The
it's
study
been
was
done.
done like,
No,
We did it.
not the
Yeah, but I
city.
mean, they,
Torres, he didn't do a parking study?
they'll probably do
He
it on
would have had
their
to have
own.
done one.
Well, we're looking more
they've done their study of what was needed to take care of what they're building.
what they did, and they did do that, and they show enough parking spots for that. But what we need to do is figure a study of what it's going to do impacting the surrounding area. And the CRA did a parking study, I want to say about 12 years ago, if I'm
All
not
right, so we'll
mistaken.
get some prices to put before you,
Yep.
okay? And if it's under the threshold for procurement, then you guys can pull
What
the
is that,
trigger on
5
something.
grand?
5,000.
The only,
It's 5
the
to
only,
10.
the only people we have a contract with is CPH, and CPH can do a parking study, but that is the only contract we have, period.
Okay.
And now, Mr. George, and this might be something you can check on later, but Mr. George had, had said that he would help us with other services that we may need to think about of getting some contracts going. So you might, when you're settled in a little better, reach out to him and have him direct us in that direction,
Okay.
so that we're not going to the same well every time.
No, and I think that we can get 3 proposals for a parking study, so long as it's under the requisite threshold. You don't have to go with CPH. We can get a price from them, but you can choose somebody else if you want to. Okay?
CPH is all right.
That's based on procurement policy here,
Mhm.
but the CVS study, we got 5,000 set aside for the CVS study.
That was the flyest to Puerto Rico, Bob.
No, it's not there anymore, New Jersey.
New Jersey. I mean, that was the flyest in New Jersey.
CVS?
That's the drugstore down here on the corner.
Oh, okay.
Too many acronyms floating around here.
Well, she throws around all these acronyms, and I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't know that one.
Well, the CVS, I did talk to Russ Gibson. There are some ideas floating around. There's a big study that I made a copy of that talks about some of these empty boxes and how people are reusing them. Some of them, for example, in this particular case, we talked about a nonprofit because of the fact that maybe we could sway CVS, since $1 million a year is nothing to them. If they could donate it to a nonprofit, they get a tax benefit, and we could get another user in there. So I did talk to a nonprofit grocer, GFS is who I spoke to, and they would be a wonderful candidate, except they're
General
nonprofit.
food service?
Community,
Yeah, they're a nonprofit, and they use local growers and those kinds of things. So I talked to them. They said they would, they like the idea, but they're not interested in this market. They've got 2 groceries in this area already. So I talked to Russ, and Russ has some other ideas. So we can bring back some ideas to you, but you do have $5,000 set aside for what I call a feasibility study. Can I pull the trigger on that and get some prices from people to do that?
Get with Bob.
Okay.
I'd like to see the direction that would go, because I'd be very concerned about
Because as
what
a-
it's going to be. I think it needs to be commercial,
Yeah.
not
We-
something that is another community service at the gateway.
Oh yeah, no, I mean it's a grocer. What's happened is I looked at all of the work sessions with the community. The community has come back and said that they don't feel like they have enough
Groceries.
grocery. So that's the only reason why I came up with that idea. But I mean, I'd like to get a feasibility study to find out what would be the best use for the property. I mean,
Who's the owner? They're the owner or
no, they're a tenant. CVS is a tenant. The
Yeah,
owner
but
is
there's
a
only-
different guy.
That
There's
was
only
leased
6
out,
years
so-
left. How many years left on the
7, I believe.
7 years? And just an FYI, going back 2 years, when did you first come on board, Bob? 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So 2 years ago, we have, through CPH, because CVS is one of CPH's biggest clients, Brady had set up a bunch of meetings. We were actually, the $5,000 that was put in there was for all of us to travel up there with the mayor and everybody to try and sell them on doing something. And they have just come back and point blank said, we're not interested. We don't want to do anything with it.
Well,
And-
because they're
It
they're
doesn't.
stuck for 7 years.
And then the owner, it just sold recently, and amazingly, it sold for exactly what the what's left in the lease. But so the new owners that have it, and they're just not interested in, and they really don't want to have the discussion.
Well, there's another, as part of that study, some of the communities have dealt with it in an ordinance. So what they're saying is you can't have a vacant building for more than a certain period of time.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
That's
you
not
can't.
us, though. That'd be the city.
So we
Yeah.
can talk about that. I don't know if you have any ideas, but I'll give you the study.
Before we
Because
pulled the trigger on CVS,
Well, they lose their,
Right,
Yeah.
not a CRA, so.
yeah, but
There's
wouldn't they be
zoning, right?
grandfathered in though? If you
No,
change the ordinance,
no.
wouldn't
Well,
you be
I don't think
grandfathered
so.
in?
I
No.
don't think so.
No, that's the whole point of the big box ordinance is that the community's put in,
Yeah.
is to address those empty big
You know what?
boxes.
That would.
But I don't know if that's qualified.
That would solve a lot of,
That's a small box.
Yeah.
that
You
would
know,
solve
the
a
old
lot of
Albertsons.
issues.
Before you move forward on the CVS feasibility, and we spent money on it, I think maybe we reach back out to CVS and see if they would entertain a nonprofit. And we've never hit them with that avenue. We always said, let's find somebody to go in there. Maybe if we get a plan up to them, if they would say, yes, we would be interested in putting a nonprofit in there. And then at that point, I'd say we start a feasibility and include the commission to see where
Okay.
they want to go with
We'll
it.
throw some ideas around, and I'm gonna let Russ be like the head on
Yep.
that.
And and CPH can help get the contact going again, and Bob can as well. But yeah, I think before we spend any money, we have to have at least some inclination, because what we've
Okay.
been told is, don't waste your time coming up here, boys. I thought we were going to get to go. It was Puerto Rico at the time, wasn't it, Bob?
Yeah.
I thought I was going to
They
get it.
have never met me. I am a pit bull when it
Okay.
comes to these things. I'm kidding. I'm
Works
kidding.
for me.
I'm CRA now, so I'm gonna let the big guns go after the CVS. So, okay, other studies, anything else, other priorities that you guys want addressed?
Brian, you got anything you got interested in?
You know, I drive up and down Sanford Avenue, that road is starting to get pretty rough.
Sanford
Well,
Avenue?
that goes back to putting maintenance into the budget.
When you say pretty rough, I mean, what do you,
Bumpy?
Bumpy.
oh, bumpy, okay, I thought you meant
No, I mean,
It's not-
trash.
and I look, and there's bricks down, and I was like,
What's going on in
something
zone
quit. 'Cause
between
it's
the
only been
blocks?
open,
When you say,
how long's it been
what's
open?
that mean, you know?
Year and a half?
It's open for interpretation.
Yeah.
I'll get bumpy. It does. That rock, I mean, they're constantly out there repacking them.
Are they?
Well, right now, we're going back on Sanford Avenue. They're going back to the contractor on.
That's what I'm saying, because it
Redoing.
hasn't been that long, and
I
I'm
know, but something
the-
happened.
yeah,
The
I don't think something
standards-
was done right, or,
What? Because there's a lot of
Yeah.
places that have been dug out and redone, still not working. So
You know what? The
They're gonna
last
redo it.
the last two that we had, the second phase of
One
First
Lane.
Street and now Sanford Avenue, the best company we ever had was the first phase of First Street. It's still smooth, and you can see the difference when you're going. Well, that's good to know on that, because I was noticing it too, but I just figured, what do you do?
yeah, but not after a year and a half. I mean, somewhere's kind of.
It's not even a year and a half, is it? Yeah, I guess it is.
Well,
Sonia, Robert Beal and all them were supposed to be getting back with us on contracts for like pressure washing and all that they had brought up at the last meeting, and we were going to look at contracts on that. I know we entered in one during the budget. They were supposed to come back with pricing, because remember they came to us when we were downstairs. You weren't there for that meeting. The 2 meetings ago, or
Is this the,
last meeting.
maintenance on
Yeah.
the, okay, pressure wash?
Pressure washing, and they were going to
That's,
come back with a.
Riverwalk too, right?
They were going to come back with a study. I know we were paying for some benches. What
swings.
else did we give
Right.
them there, Bob? Benches, swings.
Yeah.
There was
Here's one
quite a
thing
few.
that I'm concerned about. If we do pressure wash some of those pergolas, the aluminum pergolas, the paint's already peeling off of
I
that.
don't think we were pressure washing there. We were looking more
Talking about
sidewalks and everything, and they're
sidewalks,
redoing
I
those.
believe.
Okay.
You might want to
I'll
look at
follow
the
up.
look
It's
at the
aluminum,
minutes.
so paint's
Yeah.
never going to
Minutes
stick
from the
well.
last meeting, and
Yeah.
listen
It's
to
an
what the
ongoing
city got, so that we can make sure we're moving forward on that. They won't forget, but and to get to that,
Okay.
Mike, you got anything that's of
Nope.
interest to you?
I think we covered a lot.
Paul,
No, sir.
I'm good. All right, that was very productive.
It was.
Very, very productive, and I'm very excited about a lot of that stuff. So, huh? We really did. Well, you're gonna have to you have to defragment, decompress from it. But the one thing that we've done is we always come up with good ideas, and we never got completion on it, which I know that will change as well. So, great. Anybody have anything? Good.
Nope.
We'll go ahead and call this meeting an end, and we'll hit stop.
Very good.